Defining Duke is brought to you by Squarespace. Squarespace is the all-in-one website platform for entrepreneurs to stand out and succeed online. Whether you're just starting out or managing a growing brand, Squarespace makes it easy to create a beautiful website, engage with your audience, and sell anything from products to content to time, all in one place, all on your own terms. So what are you waiting for, Dukes? Head over to squarespace.com for a free trial. And when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/Duke to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. Again, that's squarespace.com/Duke.
Defining Duke, an Xbox podcast, is brought to you by, well, you. If you want to learn how to support the show, go to patreon.com/laststandmedia. Salutations, everybody. It is Maddie here today, and welcome to episode 151 of Defining Duke, an Xbox podcast. Today, I'm joined by everybody's favorite turkey, Lord Cognito. How are you doing today, sir?
Gobble, gobble. Food season coming, approaching. I get to be greedy. I know we got some questions, but yeah, this is a holiday I actually don't mind the festivities about. Involves food, so we like that. You know what I'm saying? But I'm hanging in, doing all right. How you doing, man?
Doing okay. We're it kind of sank in because the goal for LSM is to be done by the 15th of December, and I was laying in bed last night. I was like, wow, we're less than a month from being out for the year, and that's kind of crazy. It kind of renewed my spirit a little bit, just because, like, all right, final push, like last bit of gas left in the tank, let's go. And I'm excited because today's a fun episode in that we have a lot of news to get into across like Starfield and Xbox and all that fun stuff, but we also have just like a lot of random write-ins, so it's going to be a nice fun episode. As always, ladies and gentlemen, we appreciate you tuning in. Each and every week we're available here on patreon.com/laststandmedia. You can get early ad-free access to the show on Thursdays. I don't know if this episode is still going out on Thursday because we're recording this a day early for the holidays. So if anything happens, which it typically doesn't, but if anything happens on like Wednesday, then you'll know why we missed it through our usual recording window, which is on Wednesdays. But anyway, we're available on Thursdays, typically early ad-free access. Otherwise, we hit free feeds on audio platforms, YouTube on Sunday, so you can find us anywhere you want at any time you want. Also, if you're a patron, we do Defining Duke Ultimate episode 124 just went live. It's called the MMO Report. I brought on Embers Arcade, who had emailed me and said pretty much he had this very convincing pitch for an episode, and it was a really good time. He is, think of, I guess, me with like Bethesda games, and like this guy is an aficionado on MMOs. Like, as an experiment, he put in like 500 hours into Lost Ark and did this whole video on it. Yeah, he's played a ton of time, spent a ton of time with Final Fantasy 14. So he's seen like all the expansions. Okay. He was really big on WoW, and we had a conversation about Game Pass, how that can impact the MMO market. Should people check out World of Warcraft? He pitched this kind of idea of like World of Warcraft 2 almost, how console versions are inevitable, and how Final Fantasy 14 is, a really strong competitor, and like what one does better than the other. So if you're looking for this kind of briefing on all things MMO, and I even get a bit into like my days of RuneScape and Elder Scrolls Online and so on. That's all there over on patreon.com/laststandmedia. We got a really strong positive reception to the episode thus far. So really, a lot of people have been sending thanks my way, but it was send your thanks to Embers Arcade. Not only does he carry the episode because he's the expert there, but also it was his idea entirely. And he had pitched it to me. So give him all the credit, not me. I was happy to have him on. It's a great episode. Please do check it out if you are a patron. All right, Cog, we have an important question to start things off with here.
We'll set it off. Right. All right.
Wiley Olmstead writes in, hey, Dukes, wanted to get your takes on your favorite Thanksgiving side dishes. Are you more of a mashed potato or sweet potato casserole guy? Brussels sprouts, yay or nay? Do you have a side dish unique to your family or subculture? I think we may already know your stance on mac and cheese, but feel free to reiterate. Thanks for all you guys do, and happy Thanksgiving. Thank you, Wiley, for writing in. Cog,
Yo,
Any special dishes hitting the cognito table at Thanksgiving? Let us know.
I like this question, Wiley. I am a side dish guy. This is actually a big thing for me. So for me, sweet potato casserole for sure. I love me some sweet potato cock. Love sweet potato. Now, surprising, I am a stuffing guy. I am a guy that likes a good stuffing. And the key for me, outside of just the turkey, the main dish itself, is cranberry. You got some good cranberry. It's like a dessert to me. You glaze that joint over, you mix it. I actually mix it in with all the different food. A little bit of turkey, a little bit of, if it slides over there by the or stuff it, I'm fine. I love cranberry. There's something about it that sweet taste kind of like offsets everything else and makes things more enjoyable. So yeah, that's me. So sweet potato, stuffing, cranberry, those three is kind of like my top sides for the Thanksgiving feast. So what about Maddie? What's he doing out here? Are you a side guy?
Yeah, I'm a mashed potato guy. Sweet potatoes are also extremely good, but I think when I see them side by side, I'm picking the mashed potato personally, right? Just buttery, smooth, the little blocks of potatoes, and they're just, my mom makes an incredible mashed potato, so it's just so good. Laylee makes a really good mashed potato, so yeah, I'm more partial to that. Side dish unique to my family, I think I've got one. My friends always roast it, and they have a really dirty nickname for it that I don't know if I can say on air, but I have these things called creamed onions. I don't know if this is that a known dish? Do you know what that? Okay.
I am unfamiliar.
It was a dish, at least to my knowledge, that my grandma had. I don't know if she made. I think my so her mom had come up with the recipe. So this is generational.
Generational.
Right? And I mean, there's no real explanation to it. That it's in the name. It's creamed onions. So like they're these kind of whole bulbs of onions.
Okay.
Very soft, covered in like cream and milk, and very heavy, but like one of my favorite side dishes, and seems unique to our family. So I like sending it to my friends as a flex. And it's a word that starts with a C. Onion. Yeah, like it's got that kind of glaze to it. So I thought I was cooking with it. I was like, look, just try it. Like, it doesn't matter how it looks, just try it. You don't gotta cook it up like that.
Just let it go down the throat.
Yeah. So that's creamed onions are definitely unique to my family. So that's there. And then otherwise, we don't have mac and cheese at Thanksgiving. I don't know if that's a common thing. We do have cornbread casserole though, which is really
that's
good.
Unofficial. Okay.
Yeah, that's really good. Yeah, I feel like we put together a great Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving is really competitive in my friend group, mind you. Like we send plates in and we like rate, like we go hard in rating it. Like it's like hard, like tearing up, like, nah, that turkey's dry. Like the presentation's off on the vegetables. Like where's your cornbread at, and so on and so forth. Yeah, the crumbles are all over the base of the plate. It's bad. It gets pretty competitive in there.
Okay, yeah, compare it. All right, I see what we're doing.
Thank you for writing in, Wiley. Those are our takes. We've come together on food this time, so that's good. So we hope you all who are celebrating have a good Thanksgiving. Yes, we had a write-in with Meatball, and I always like to take the opportunity to help our audience where we can, right? You know, they write in, they're looking for some sort of light, beacon of hope, some help. So let's help Meatball. Good day, Dukes. This will be a long-winded warm-up question, but bear with me. Have either of you had a shitty boss? I work in IT support where the company expects us to be chained to our desks 8 hours a day. My boss is the epitome of a micromanager, and it's super demoralizing. I'm often envious of full-time content creators like yourselves not having to answer to anyone above you and the freedom that brings. I'm interested to hear your perspective since you don't have a boss per se, like the vast majority of the working force. What advice would you give someone like me in the trenches of corporate America? Has being a boss yourself changed your view of management styles? Matt with his game, Cog with ILP. Cheers from Arizona and enjoy the holidays. Cog, you'd have definitely more authority on this than I. Truth be told, I've been lucky and blessed in the fact that I did landscaping for a little bit of time, but I've never like places I tried to apply to places, but I never worked at like a store or anything like that. So I don't want to speak out my ass here. I feel like I could support you where you'd have better perspective than me.
Yeah, salute me, boy. I've had this exact situation, coming up in IT. I remember I was going between jobs, and there was a job kind of local in my area. It was IT. I felt I had a good skill set, knocked out the interview, And the boss, the guy seemed pretty cool who I interviewed. I knew I'd be working with, but like as it went on, you start to speak to the other people who you be working with, colleagues, and like their disdain for him. Like that started to come out very early. Like, oh, this guy always, riding us and
Mm-hmm.
micromanaging and it didn't happen to me for a while, but I would say like after the first year, I started to see signs of like, okay, he's a problem. And
Mm-hmm.
again, it became down to, I'm a person that like, hey, I want to do the job to the best of my ability. You give me the instructions, you give me the playbook, coach him in, right? That was
Mm-hmm.
my mentality back then. So he give you the playbook, you run the play. He'd be like, nah, I wanted you to cut left here. And I'm like, that's not what the playbook said. I'm going by what
Mm-hmm.
you said. And he just had this way of just, you had to kind of read his mind or that would fluctuate as much as possible.
And
So
he would
yeah.
get mad. Would he get mad when you did it wrong?
Oh,
See, that's the problem. Like if you don't read his mind right, but he's like, "Oh, look, my bad." I think that's the
right.
key, right? The accountability.
The accountability. And then the thing that really pissed me off is, and as a man, it's really, I struggle. It's like tone. What the
Mm,
worst thing you could do to Cog is talk to me in a very disrespectful, demeaning, like you're an idiot. And,
mm,
especially when I know I wasn't incorrect. Like, I'm okay. Like, if someone makes a mistake, I don't normally personalize it. But if this is their consistent thing and they want to berate you, right? So
mhm.
now it's got to the point, and I like, probably a couple of weeks, I stood quiet. And then one time I challenged him. I was like, "No, this is incorrect, and what you're coming up with doesn't make sense based on this." And I provided the proof. He didn't like that. He didn't like that. So yeah, we didn't last long at this particular job, and it was a learning experience. But I learned, one thing in IT, and it's my career. I've had two separate instances where I had to stand up for myself, and I felt like one of them was hilarious because to this day, it was one of my first IT jobs. Basically, it was a job that took advantage of younger guys just getting out of school who didn't have experience,
Mhm.
and no one wants to mess up because this is a hard, they don't want to keep their job,
Yeah, yeah.
but they were being abused so badly and taken advantage of so badly, and I was just like, you know what? He gonna know. So I started the slave uprising.
No.
I was the guy. I was like, this is dead wrong. I was like, you're taking advantage of these kids. These guys are killing themselves, busting their behind. And I laid it down. And I was like, no. And I said, if you have a problem with it, I could walk out right now. Like, I really, like, I was, and this is young Cog. This is me.
Mm,
Like, this is young. I had everything to lose, Cog. Like,
mm.
I needed that job. But the reality was, I was like, I'm not going to be treated and have good people treated this way, and I kind of staged a walkout. So yeah,
Oh.
I never told this story publicly, but it happened.
There's so
And
many chaptures in the Book of Cog. Have you
yeah, I got
noticed that, y'all?
stories.
Like this guy
Yeah.
was there for like what the founding of a stadium too in football. Like you're gonna find this guy in like an ancient painting at one point. He's like, oh, there's Cog. He was there too.
Bro, to this day, people say, yo, that speech you gave, they was like, people left. I heard it was a bad situation. They had to change their policy. He got fired eventually. It was a bad, yeah, it was a thing.
Oh,
I actually
the
changed
winds of
policy.
change
Yeah,
blowing
yeah.
through.
It was my first IT job. It was I ain't gonna
So
say
you
where
calling
it's
for
at.
Meatball to start an uprising?
I don't advise him to do that. But what I would say, my advice to Meatball is that look, you know, all jobs, look, is a job. It has to work good for you and the employee. Be respectful as much as you can, But at the same time, what I would say as far as management style, which is really wanted to get to, is I personally, I try not to micromanage. You know what I'm saying? I try to trust that the people I have in have the ability to do it. Now, obviously, you do have to check on the work sometimes and see if it's done.
Mhm.
So what I would say is, a smooth hand, be respectful and, trust the intelligence of a person, but also not be afraid to have the tough conversations. And I think that's what it is. People like to feel empathy, that you care, that they're doing the job and you're paying attention. You know what I'm saying? That's me. I always try to put myself in the mindset of the person who's working. And the last thing, especially in IT, one of the worst things is when someone doesn't have the ability to do their job because things are not functional. Like I just had a
Mhm.
meeting with my team, and I think right now we're going through some site upgrades with Lords of the Game, and I'm very frustrated. And I know the guys are frustrated, so I try to empathize. Hey, I know what you guys are going through. Here's the ETA. This is what we're doing. That kind of a bit, so that they understand. People are not suffering in silence because people are leave. People
Yeah.
will not, they will not deal with nonsense too long. So that's my
Mhm.
best advice I could give to you. But I salute you on this because this brought back a lot of memories about a couple of bad bosses I had over a couple of jobs over my career.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the only thing I could chime in on, I guess I come from more of the leadership department of things because I've worked for myself the whole time. So any calls I wanted to make were just up to me, and that was kind of it. But when I had to start managing people, I guess what I did is I shaped my style a lot around what I heard from my friends. Like I absorbed those experiences that I heard and counted my blessings at the same time, just dealing with these shitty bosses. And I think the worst you can have is incompetency, and that incompetency combined with lack of accountability. So mistakes are going to be made on all fronts. People who are working for me are going to make mistakes. I'm going to make mistakes, but as long as we own that and we work together to fix it, I think that's what's important. I think about an example would be like I'm working with a composer right now. We're getting tracks together, and it's a lot of like do it over kind of stuff. Do it over, right? Like we have like 9 versions of this particular track, and we might scrape all of that for a new approach. Like this whole time we've been trying to go, like what he'll do is he'll send me like checkpoints, we call it. So like 40 seconds in. Okay, what are you feeling? I'm like, all right, pretty good. Get another minute in. No, try these instruments here, maybe that. No, it's just constantly adjusting, like this back and forth. So we get to version 9. It's like, okay, I feel like we've got something here, but it's almost like not having this what I would call the it factor, like the soul, right? That the intangible that you kind of have to feel to collect it all together. And I was like, okay, let's try a completely different approach here. Like, let's try instead, I'm telling you kind of what I envision. Like, here's a reference. Here's what I'm feeling and thinking. Here's the character bio or their portrait and so on and so forth. Like, here's art for them, the environment, et cetera, et cetera. It's like we're trying to pull all of that together, and we're maybe not clicking on that. So you have to like, I own that, what, my approach the first time around, I'm sorry that it comes at the cost of you starting over, but let's try a different approach. This time, what we're going to do, and we're going to see if it works, is like, I want your interpretation of this character. Like, I want you to express yourself through what you've read and consumed instead of what I'm trying to tell you what to do.
Okay.
And because I was thinking about it almost like, that's a more extreme example, right? Because like, that's like, I'm very hard on writing and music. There's just because like, those are the two creative outlets that I feel the strongest. My artist, I give a ton of leeway to. I'm just like, yep, looks great. Like, just let them cook. Same thing with the music. It's not like I'm breathing down his neck at all by any stretch. I try to give as much freedom as I can. I think that's what people basically ask for, is like, do your thing. So that's why I adjusted. I was like, it's on me.
Right.
Let me not be here like giving you like feedback every 40 seconds. I want you to make like a full piece and then throw it my way on what you've made that you're happy with, so that you kind of get to do your thing. He still wants to send me like, hey, let me just send you first 30 seconds to make sure like we're heading somewhere in the right direction. So that, I think that's the best you can have, is the ability to reflect in a leadership position, like just looking at yourself. And I think the other best thing you can do is make sure that you're not forking orders. Like, I think it's really important that every leader is on the same level as the common worker, in that, you're doing your part too. It's not just like you're overseeing all of the work, but that you're doing it too. So that's kind of the perspective I got from friends that are, that work jobs that they're just not like a fan of, or work with people they're not a fan of. It just seems to be like one consistent thing. So the toughest part is when you're I'm sure you can relate to this entirely, the cool boss, is when you've got to flip the switch and be like, and you got to be a little more stern and be like, we can't do that. And
absolutely.
And I think it's effective only because you're not like that all the time. So when you have to toughen up, if you will, it connects a lot more. And so that's been my approach the whole time. I don't tell anyone to do, I don't berate them. I do everything one-on-one. I'm never mad. It's more like I think the last thing I'll just say is it's an approach on like solution-oriented thinking, as in, it's not, here's what you did wrong, idiot. It's like, it's like, okay, look, like, we're not just connecting here. What can we do to make this better? Not you. What can we do? Like that. I just think that type of stuff is important, and it gets the best out of everyone. It gets the best out of what we're going for. It gets their energy. They don't feel like they fucked up tremendously. There's an understanding guiding hand. You don't punish them heavily. I don't know. I think I take some cues from how I treat my dog too. At the end of the day, it's like, we treat these animals in a particular way. And it's like, I think that benevolence, that forgiveness, if you carry it over to the human side of things, which oftentimes isn't the case for many people, that breeds a better interaction as well. So that's just my perspective on it from someone who I've not had the opportunity to directly work from someone outside of landscaping, which was more freelance work anyway.
Yeah, no, well said. I love the points. This is great stuff, man.
Thank you. All right, Cog. We've helped the audience. Now let's talk about video games. Redfall got its third update, adding the Basilisk, a new sniper rifle where the first bullet is UV powered and can petrify vampires. They've added more balancing to the game, such as the removal of shrouds, anglers, and siphons until the player finishes certain missions or is of a particular level. There are also dozens of fixes beyond that in the patch notes that you can read online, but it ends with the following statement, quote, "We're continuing development of the Hero Pass. We're excited to share more about Redfall's new heroes and other updates later next year." So they're not dropping it. They're sticking with it. And update 3 is here, Cog. What are our thoughts, man?
You don't sound enthused, man.
I'm just doing my job as a host.
You're hilarious right now. Look, I'm with you. Obviously, the consensus the Duke share is that we have been ready to move on for Redfall, based on the initial reception. But I think we could agree. We felt it was honorable that they came back to do the 60 frames.
I give them credit for
right. We're giving them credit.
Easy project to drop. They give them credit. Yeah.
Give them credit for continued support. Again, I wasn't even aware of this, so they're still having balance updates, and we were aware of this though. We did when we went to go see the preview event. We were aware that there were going to be more characters added at a certain point. Yes. So this I knew was coming. I was just going to see when. The question to me now is, how extensive is this Hero Pass going to be past another 2 to 3 or 4 characters?
I think it's 2 characters, if I remember.
If I remember right. Yeah, we can talk about it a little bit now. But yeah, at the time, there was planned
for heroes.
Yeah, Future Heroes was part of that docket, right? So look, kudos to them for at least, sticking it through and fulfilling their obligations that they said they were going to do. But again, like you, I'm ready for a fresh new start. I'm ready to see Arcane go back to what, I want them to be. I know Pete in the past said this is something 10 years, that they expect Redfall to go back to. I look at that statement, to be brutally honest, as you want this to be serviceable for someone to go on Game Pass so that it is not a complete disaster as a Game Pass title. That's how I take it. I don't take it like we're going to have a Cyberpunk renaissance with this. You know what I'm saying? Hey, if it happens, God, but I don't see it. Because I'm with you, Maddie. I think the core is just not there on a base level.
It needs a complete overhaul. And if they go to that length, I'm sure it could be great. But I don't know if it's worth it after all this. Like, again, the reason Cyberpunk, I think CD Projekt Red hung with it so much is just because underneath it, people saw greatness and they were like, oh man, this should have been so much more. I loved it from day one, but many people were like, this could have been so much more. And now it's really, all these years later, achieved that. And so I think that's the problem with Redfall is if you're going to stick with it this long and you're going to try to make it into that game, I mean, that requires a bigger investment. I think I ran over the numbers on Defining Duke here on how CD Projekt Red spent hundreds of millions of dollars in just recovering this game. So well beyond the development costs that they originally anticipated, I imagine. So yeah, man, it's interesting that Redfall is getting support. I will say this, adding a new weapon. This sounds like a great weapon just because I played as, I think it was Remy. I played as sniper dude. And this is a weapon that I would have loved to have had. So I think for those hopping in eventually, this will be a great addition to the arsenal because there are times you'll see a vampire in the distance and to be able to just petrify them with the first shot and not have to go up and stake them or whatever. That's great. So that's an awesome addition there. It's more of the creativity that we, I guess, know Arcane for. So hopefully they can continue to branch out. And I am interested to see how the heroes play because my biggest critique really on a content level was how beyond the level design, the heroes they felt like a fragmented Corvo rather than like individual built out characters. So like, okay, maybe that was the starting point, and they've kind of so like, what is the expansion of that? They have to have newer, at least I think they do need to have newer ideas for these heroes coming to Redfall. So maybe that can be a good shot in the arm. I think the problem is that you have to pay for them. So
yeah, that is true. I don't expect these to be for free. Yes. So
no, it's part of the pass that you had to pay for, right? So,
right.
Yeah, I don't think. I'll be interested to see who lines up and plays this. I may check out of morbid curiosity, because that's just been my thing this year.
Shout out to morbid curiosity. No, I'm with you.
I have one of those in the what we're playing section. Morbid curiosity got me again. We'll talk about it.
We're going to get it. The last point I'll say to be positive is that if they truly want to turn this around, again, foundation at a core level has to be fixed. Skill tree, like you said, you and Saul made great points. We all felt all four of them were fragmented Corvo, and I felt individually the skills were just, time extenders, or you get something to last a little bit longer. I didn't feel you had multiple abilities per character. You do that, you flesh that out, and the core gameplay, then maybe you got a chance at maybe getting some more, interest in it. But until then, I gotta see. So that's where I'm at with it right now.
Well, we'll watch. It seems like that's probably going to be the last update for Redfall this year, and that we'll hear more next year.
Yeah. Defining Duke is brought to you by Squarespace. Squarespace is the all-in-one website platform for entrepreneurs to stand out and succeed online. Whether you're just starting out or managing a growing brand, Squarespace makes it easy to create a beautiful website, engage with your audience, and sell anything from products to content to time, all in one place, all on your own terms. With Squarespace, I personally appreciate three major things. As a Duke with a strong entrepreneurial spirit, the ability to have online stores to sell physical or service products is huge for me. Squarespace can provide these tools to help you start selling online. In addition to this, the ability to sell any custom merchandise as passive income is also a good selling point. Designing your custom products, and Squarespace handles the rest, where production, inventory, and shipping are handled for you, saving you that much needed time and money. Squarespace also has flexible website templates to get your site started with a professional look that you can customize to fit your unique needs. You can make any Squarespace template do what you want, so your idea, brand, or business stands out online and on every device. So what are you waiting for, Dukes? Head over to squarespace.com for a free trial, and when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/Duke to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. Again, that's squarespace.com/Duke.
ID at Xbox director Guy Richards recently spoke to GamesIndustry.biz for Paris Games Week, and he said the following, quote, the team working with indie creators has never been bigger, and we have never been investing more indie games, whether it's through ID at Xbox or a developer acceleration program designed to support creators from underrepresented groups. I think with the Activision Blizzard King acquisition, everything Microsoft has got lined up in the future, we will grow as well, and we'll get to create more opportunities for players and developers, end quote. Now, I bring this up also because there were some interesting stats shared by a friend of the show, Mike Rose, who works over at No More Robots, and that is a company that's been putting out indie games a ton, and they are arguably the loudest supporters of Game Pass in our industry, beyond the first party studios that Microsoft has, because he writes here, it's time for another classic Mike Rose stats tweet thread. This time it's the Spirit Tea launch week stats, which many people may not know was a day one Game Pass edition. He goes, we launched Spirit Tea last Monday, and it's been one of our biggest launches to date. At a glance, $1 million in sales during week one, 150,000 players across PC, Switch, and Game Pass, profitable on day one. Week one profits are 3 times the game's development costs. Top sellers chart in all regions on Nintendo Switch, and Solar Developer Project with plenty of updates to come. And there's a whole thread here breaking down how fascinating the launch is, that this is actually a game that did the worst on Steam and the best on Xbox and Switch, accounting for 80% of its revenue. He mentions that they're always going to do on Game Pass. He says, on Xbox, Game Pass has, as usual, been huge for us. Spirit Tea was actually meant to launch in 2022, but after we got a Game Pass deal, we decided, hey, let's make this thing even better, and hence the delay into 2023 and the 100+ hours of content. 100,000 people have played the game on Game Pass in the last week, and we've heard plenty of people say they bought the game on Steam or Switch after playing the Game Pass version. So once again, a ridiculously good experience for us. He also notes here that they had no YouTube coverage at all. And he put a screenshot up searching Spirit Tea, and you see here There's only 3 videos, including the game, or 4 if you include the game's trailer. 5. I mean, it's a staggeringly low amount, very little visibility for the game, and it still found a way to do well. So I thought these stories kind of matched each other well. As ID at Xbox continues to invest, so too do these independent developers want to invest in Game Pass, where obviously for many people, even though I think we've gone over it ad nauseum, the verdict is still out on Game Pass's long-term sustainment and success with big AAA games like a Starfield or a Hi-Fi Rush. But there's no denying, I think, anymore that indies, this is where you want to be. If you are an indie developer, this is where you want to be, because you collect a bag. I mean, that's the thing I don't even think he mentioned here, is that I'm sure with the Game Pass money they took, that probably put them in a spot where they may have been near profitable there. They were able to delay the game because of the Game Pass bag. Like, that's crazy to think about. Granted, this is a little bit more of a unique scenario. We're talking one person here, but still, really cool story. Cog, your thoughts on ID at Xbox continuing to invest further into indie games and the success of Spirity?
Yeah, man. Again, salute to Chris Charles and the team, and obviously Guy Richards and ID at Xbox. I always sing their praises. They've come such a long way. Again, I always recall Xbox One, the horrific policies, as far as getting indie games onto the platform, the changes they've made there. And then again, when we hear stories like this about Spirity, it's really impressive, because it shows that they've got a real good eye now at picking out some really talented as well as smaller and represented groups in the indie scene. And we're starting to see these gems. What was the one with the crow that we played earlier this year? Oh, Death's Door.
Death's Door. Yeah.
Death's Door. Right. Yep. There's little joints in there. COG is artsy fartsy. So this is great. Yeah, like this. I really appreciate these type of these deals. Again, I want to shout out to my man Stephen Danton from Two Ton Studios. He had a really cool Souls-like mini game with it almost looked like a little Lord Barbarian Game of Thrones type character named Unto the End, and I absolutely love that game. Had him on ILP, talked about his story about how the Game Pass bag worked, what did it entail, and basically help save his game because go through the development costs. So when you hear about stories like this is fantastic. The only concern I have is obviously Game Pass is going to get bigger, right? Game Pass is going to continue to grow. We got ABK, we got all this stuff. To see them still maintaining this level of relationship with the indies is good after major acquisitions, because the worry is, now we got the big acquisitions, we ain't gonna be giving out the Game Pass back. But it's still, they're still looking for talent in this space. So what that tells me is, what is still critical to Game Pass is diversity in lineup, right? You can have your big blockbuster, but you can also have your indie right next to it, sharing the storefront, right? And that is huge visibility for an indie, especially a guy who, he went off. He was like, we ain't rock with no YouTube, but we ain't trying to pay no YouTube money. That's a big statement. He did this I call this off the strength of the service, really. I mean, obviously he was on multiple platforms as well. We're not going to minimize it. But according to him, the Steam sales did better after being on Game Pass. Then people said, hey, let me check it out on these other platforms. So salute to him. This is awesome. If you could be in a unique situation where you can launch on multiple platforms and take the Game Pass, but man, get your money, bro. Get your money. Always. I ain't mad at you.
Always. Yeah, I think there will always be a spot for these types of games, because I think of like Amazon Prime, like for every Wheel of Time or The Boys or Invincible, like you need your kind of underrated gem in there. And so I think these are the types of games people look for, and especially since Xbox has a whole program that's firing on all cylinders, mind you, dedicated to it. I think it'll continue, and in fact even grow in the years, because they're investing more. Because I mean, I think this is where a lot of the money is. Like, these are the cheaper games to make that have the highest ceiling in the terms of revenue gains. If you have an indie game, it's like their goal is to keep costs to the floor as much as possible.
Facts.
And when they gain, I mean, they gain big. So that's why they're investing in it, clearly. I mean, you look at what Spirity, that's the last game, and I say this all due respect, and I'm sure they know it as well. It's the last game that anyone was talking about in this holiday window, and look at the success it found.
Insane.
150,000 players. Like, that's That's a lot, man.
Well,
That's
for
a
small.
lot. That's a ton of money coming through the door too. I know it wasn't all just sales, but again, just not to get repetitive here. It's just impressive to see how well indies are doing, and I think they're going to only grow from here.
Yeah. And last point I want to shout out, like, I mean, look at the slew of it. Vampire Survivors, Planet Alana, Cocoon, some of it. That's the, you can start, it's starting to become a pattern of these very high quality indie games, and they're getting onto the service immediately. And the discoverability is because of Game Pass. A lot of times, hey, let me just go check this out, see what's going on. Jasant is another one, right? We talked about.
Sea of Stars.
Sea of Stars. Like, you're seeing quality. Ayuden is going to be on there, right? It's a lot of gems, man. A lot of gems. It's really good to see that balance. I always felt balance on portfolio is key, and it's good to see indie developers still continue to get that shine in that bag on the service.
Absolutely. Let's shift gears here. Jeff Grubb shared some thoughts over these last couple of days about the KOTOR remake, and it's not looking good. So last Friday, he had said that KOTOR remake is dead. In fact, his words are deader than dog shit. And so I took that one pretty hard. And he had a follow-up statement that we're going to quote here, get into a write-in, and then I will get on my soapbox. Quote, Sony is wanting to be done with it being KOTOR remake. My stuff comes from PlayStation. It feels like it cannot happen without a partner like Sony. Sony seems to be out. With the funding pulled, to me, it's definitely done and no reason for anyone to be working on it. The reality is maybe someone somewhere is imagining it could happen and someone could be working on it. I don't know that far. I don't know what's happening inside Embracer. They would have to find someone to make that happen with. I know Lucas is very horny to make it happen for years. No, I think if Embracer can find someone, maybe it can still happen. And then he also mentioned that if you ever expect to play this game, don't.
Damn.
Lee is Cool Jenkins writes in, hey Dukes. So Maddie, how are we feeling after Jeff Grubb told us your beloved KOTOR remake is basically dead? Is this it for a chance at the game seeing the light of day? Or is there hope with a different studio or publisher in the future? Thanks, as always, Dukes, and have a damn I should have worn them sweatpants kind of Thanksgiving. Thank you, Lee, for writing in.
How we
All
feeling?
right, man. So
how we feeling, bro?
I've had like a duology posted on my Mr. Maddie channel, just covering both of these and really going on about it. So I had a couple of lines I wanted to pluck out from those videos to insert here just because I think they resonate with our audience really well.
All right, let's go.
I look at this situation very much like the Mets, right? You're coming in from the offseason, biggest payroll in baseball. You've got the young guns. You've got the vets. You've got the big free agent class wins. You got everyone. You think you have put together a championship squad, and that's your aspire being the young gun. Like, we've been working on remasters. It's time for our first AAA project. You're calling them up to the big leagues. You've got Saber Interactive, a sturdy vet who's seen a lot, is now supporting Aspire. It's like, okay, we've got our team. We got like the young guys at the support squad. And then you've got the steady ace in PlayStation, who's been thrown for a sub-3 ERA for 10 plus seasons. This is the partner you want. This is the team you want. And then you've got Disney, Lucasfilm, just writing the checks. So all they're there for, right? You put together this super squad, and yet your team still finds a way to go 82-80. You put together the super squad, and yet you find a way to not make the playoffs, to not even sniff a championship game. Your irrelevancy is so strong, you've now pushed off any potential suitors. That's what this whole situation reminds me of with the KOTOR remake. It reeks of Mets energy, failed sports franchise energy here. Of, we had the winning formula. Mind you, that if you just fire the game up, at its most simplest form, the template is completely there. I admire if there's ambition to overhaul things, but the template is nonetheless there. You have a one-to-one where you look at a thing and you present it to a programmer. This is how we do it. You look at the art. This is how we do it. You look at the music. This is how everything has been made for you. You are just the upkeepers at this point. Your job was horrendously simple, and you found a way to not only fuck it up, but if you go back to BioWare Austin in 2016, you found a way to to fuck this up Disney for almost 7 years now? That's impeccable. And it's funny because one thing Jeff says in his report here is how Disney isn't interested in funding games. By the way, the team that made money hand over fist with Spider-Man and no doubt Spider-Man 2, 20 million copies. No, like we see nothing as we don't want to. We need to find the right funding partner and the right developer. Get the fuck out of here, man. If that's really the energy you got after making Scrooge McDuck levels of money, that's what you come in with. Like, no, we still don't want to really fund games because you had an Avengers that everyone except you saw the writing on the wall. Maybe that's why you got pushed away. I can understand Guardians of the Galaxy being a little scary. You invest big. The game is great. It doesn't really hit the home run. I would say blame the Guardians, not the game. That's just my 2 cents. But look, KOTOR Remake deserves to exist. Jeff says here, and if we're going to live and die on his word here, like much of the industry is, okay, we need a partner like Sony. I'm going back to square one. I'm going back to square one, which I was totally fine with in the first place. Everyone can check the videos, the podcast. This has nothing to do with console wars, but this should have never gotten to Sony in the first place. It shouldn't have. This is an Xbox game. It always was. And up until it got ported to just Switch, it was always an Xbox game for over 15 years, I believe. This is a part of your legacy. I brought up pictures in my video. When you bought the original Xbox, on the back of different generations that they were selling, KOTOR 1 and KOTOR 2 were images that were used to help sell this console. This has always been synonymous with Xbox, KOTOR. Xbox should have never let this one walk away. To me, it's the equivalent, and I said this in my video, it's the equivalent of Xbox remaking the first Sly Cooper. But the difference is when KOTOR Remake made it to PlayStation, no one batted an eye. We were just happy it existed, right? Because that's what matters. And PlayStation is trusted. So it didn't matter. But now that we're at this point, right, where we're looking at it and going, Sony doesn't want to do it. They saw something so bad.
That's what I was just about to say.
They saw something so bad. Yeah. By the way, the company that this year helped publish Forspoken saw something so bad that people at Aspire got laid off. They pulled the game out from them. It got moved to Saber, and they went, you know what? We don't even fucking want anything to do with it anymore. They wanted out after all that. That's incredible to me. And I know many people are going to take it as console war dribble. That says so much when you got a publisher like PlayStation who knows a good game when they see one typically, and they don't want, it's Star Wars, and they want nothing to do with it. It's a scary sign if that's true. Because Star Wars, when it does, even look at the launch of Survivor. Jedi Survivor, I love that game, launched horribly, and it's one of the top 10 selling games of this year, and EA was thrilled with how well it sold, right? So Star Wars, when done well, even in the pits of despair, mired by technical glitches, it still found a way to succeed. So PlayStation saw something so offensively bad that none of this matters to them, and they want completely out at this point. They don't even think it's worth a look. It's not worth a fund, nothing. So that brings us back to what I was talking about. Xbox loves cleaning up messes. They love it, man. This is what they live for. Hey, Activision, you're in a bunch of lawsuits this year. You're a toxic place to work at. Let's clean you up. Hey, Bethesda, you're known for single-player games. And I see you're making a lot of live service games lately. Redfall. Well, that was later. Youngblood, 76. Come on, let's get you cleaned up. Let's get Starfield a couple more years. Right? This is their MO. As far as I'm concerned, they should have never let it go. This is their chance to bring it full circle. BioWare, in their early years on consoles, were synonymous with Xbox. Jade Empire, KOTOR, Mass Effect. Look, this is a fact. This is a part of Xbox heritage. And to me, if Xbox isn't trying to find, at least sniffing around, what's the legality of all this? What kind of contracts is this twirled up in?
Yeah.
Be that partner. There's no way you can convince me that this isn't worth making happen. In a world where, by the way, love the game, that Dead Island 2 hopped 4 almost, I think, 5 different developers and came out. That's not even a storied franchise. Many people find that to be a one-hit wonder. I love Dead Island 1, but that was like, I don't know why we went to such lengths, but I'm glad the game got made. And to see a game with such a storied history deservedly getting its remake and getting not even the chance to get passed around, that we have one set of partners that are like, yeah, fuck it, man. This ain't worth it. Lucas, pluck the IP, rip up the contracts. Xbox, pick up the phone. I know there are people who work at Xbox listening. Pick up the goddamn phone. You should have been there in the first place. Pick up the phone. This is your game. This is your legacy. You need to recover this project. It is on you now. I'm putting it on you now. I'm putting it on you. In all seriousness, though, I do think this is an opportunity for them. And it's just, it's the MO that they've built their brand off of these last couple of years. The big corp coming in, targeting the weak, and getting a major optical win out of it.
Targeting the weak.
That's literally what they've been doing. You're down bad, and Xbox is coming in every single time. And I'm not saying they got to save every game, but this is one that is directly connected to them and matches their motivations, their desires, and it helps that there's a ton of legacy with this one built in. So that's my rant. I've said it across 2 videos. I could go on, but Cog, I'd love to hear from you on the subject.
Oh, I was here for this. This is what I was here for. I needed this. I mean, there's not much to add here. You pretty much knocked it out the park as far as all the points I wanted to get across. But yeah, it just seems like a slam dunk, right? It seems like, theoretically, Star Wars IP, the template is there on a base level. On a base remastering level, it's there, right? Now it's just a matter of how far do you go with the creative liberties, the licensing, the contractual stuff. How deep in bed was Sony, Lucas, and all that stuff? Can that stuff be undone? That's the only thing I could think about that would probably stop that, because Microsoft is definitely, the type to come in and see what's going on when you hear news like this. But to your point, bro, if Sony is scared to death to do this, like you said, what they saw from a development standpoint had to be so horrible. For like Star Wars, an established IP that was already great, is a combination made in heaven that's supposed to just, this is supposed to be like Mass Effect trilogy kind of energy in a sense, right? Like This is an easy W. And I gotta come at the studio a little bit because of what happened. What were you doing that was so off the rails development wise that made Sony scared to say, nah, bro, we're not doing this? So I think that's the first thing. The second thing is contractually. I know Xbox would be interested. To your point, Xbox should have been there from the beginning. I'll give you that all off the road. This was your IP. To me, this is a Mass Effect 1 situation in a way. Your brand was associated with this. This is arguably one of the greatest Star Wars / RPG bio. Like, this is greatness under your house that you allowed to somehow slip out the back door and flirt and go with someone else. Now, regardless of the result, it should have never got there. That's where I'll die on that hill with you. It should have never even got to that point. This is
I will say this, just real quick.
Please.
Because some people will bring it up.
Yes.
Like, oh, what if Xbox saw the writing on the wall and this was all bad news from the start? And if that is true, kudos to them. But at the same time, these partnerships start off with ideas. You had an inspired dev in Aspire who is the only one who's been working hands-on with KOTOR in the last 10 years. Maybe if you count SWTOR. So they had a team that was ready to go. They needed a partner to fund it. So the design docs, as I've shared in leaks, like this seemed like a kind of remake that was going to do Final Fantasy VII remake type stuff in the terms of like overhauling that combat, right, by staying in line with the story. I'd say the biggest red flag as a consumer is when we heard how they were going to rewrite stuff. Yeah. Again, sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you.
No, please. Go.
You own an Xbox, right? Look at that. Right? If you're making this game, you own some generation of the Xbox. Here's what I'm going to teach you how to remake this game. Open this up. Take out the disc.
What are we doing?
This is me putting in my Xbox.
There you go.
You fire it up. Play the game. Take your notes. It's right there. That's the thing. It's unbelievable how overcomplicated it got. It's right here, guys. right here. Just fucking remake it, man.
I feel you.
Cog, please continue.
No, you cooking, bro. I feel the pain, and again, I don't want to disrespect Xbox this way. I would be shocked if they were there first and, they were like, nah, that ain't it. Based on what they saw or based on the pitch in the early stages. I would be surprised because, again, it does seem like a slam dunk. And, yeah, I don't understand the logic here. I just don't. So the only thing, look, if Xbox was there and we find out in some type of expose that they dodged the bullet because they saw, the vision wasn't there, then all right, I'll take it back, kind of thing. I would just be surprised. So at this point, the thing that sucks is that it just feels like this is in limbo. This is like, what can really happen now? And I worry contractually because Sony jumped in. I'm going to assume exclusivity. I'm going to assume, length of exclusivity, that there's probably nothing Microsoft can do at this point. And then also the right partner, because clear as day, Sony does not like who's working on this. And they did not like what was presented. So that leaves the actual, the IP in limbo until someone else can get in there. And they might not be able to get in there until this, can it be rescinded? Can it be stopped? No game was made, right? That's the other thing. So they may be stuck. What if this is a 2-year joint? What if it was a 2-year exclusivity and they signed that and now Sony backs out? Is it rescinded? That's a whole lore question. I'm not sure. I don't know how the legality of this works. And maybe that's why, because to your point, Maddie, there's no way that Xbox at this point right now would not want to come in, based on what has happened. I know they look at stuff like this. So it's got to be contractual. If I had to guess, that's what I'm dying on right now.
Yeah. It's crazy because this game was supposed to be out a while ago.
Yeah.
That's why I'm saying it wasn't, to my understanding, this overly ambitious complete overhaul. And that's the only reason why I would consider blaming Sony if we get that proper information is if so, help me, Lord.
What?
If I hear PlayStation wanted this movie game and they presented an authentic remake, I will scream, man. I will scream. If that's what held this back. They're like, you're remaking it? You're remaking it? You're not moving it up? Like, whoa, don't let it get there. Don't let it get there, man.
Hopefully it's not that.
That's pollution on creation if that's the case. But I'll save those bars.
Yes.
If it's true. That's why we need the Schreier expose.
Yeah.
Like, this man needs to come in with the home run piece and break down what's happening. And I know he's got people on the inside because he's the one who said originally it got bumped back to 2025.
Wow.
So yeah, this game was supposed to be out way sooner.
Wow.
With plans for KOTOR 2 remake and shit. That was a report at one point. They had a long-term strategy for KOTOR. And the reason that's exciting is because the idea that we could have finally got a KOTOR 3 out of all of this.
I know. They built the hype. Trilogies built the hype. Mass Effect Trilogy built the hype for potential Mass Effect 5. That was the hope, right? Because this is the core Star Wars games that people love.
Yes. And a sense of finality. KOTOR 2, as much as I love it, does end on a cliffhanger. Even with the restored content mod, it lacks finality. There's a lot of question marks. And the Revan book mostly wraps that up, but it's still it's a tragedy. This is one of the most beloved series in all of Star Wars, and it's been treated the worst. I saw a funny tweet in response to what I posted. And the guy said, I hope I never love a series that Maddie loves. And it's so true. Because I'm like, how out of anything that's ever cursed, how is it this here? This slice of Star Wars. You get that shitty trilogy of movies. That makes it out. But this can't. It's actually laughable, dude.
It is laughable, bro. I feel for you, man. Hopefully we get an expose and some information and movement on this in the future. Because this is rough out here in these streets. Yeah. I feel for you, bro.
I appreciate everyone bearing with me, though. I know it's been dramatic for many who don't give a shit, but I love this game, and I do. In all seriousness, without drumming it up, I do want it to come out. And even if it's not Xbox and it's a Nintendo or PlayStation figures it out, I don't care. I want the game to come out because I love the game. I don't care what platform it reps for. I want it to come out. Just like when they did the port for KOTOR, it's only on Switch, but I was gassing it up on my channel. I was like, let's go, it's out now. So yeah,
I feel you,
Until then, I will continue to mourn. Let's talk about Persona, though. I love Persona. This is great news.
Yes.
Persona 6 is likely coming to Xbox and Switch on day one alongside the usual PlayStation release. This was in a statement from Sega Sammy president Haruki Atami when asking if the series could achieve 5 million sales in a single year. He says, quote, "We believe that it would be possible for a major Persona title, such as a numbered release, to sell 5 million copies in its first year by releasing it on multiple platforms and simultaneously worldwide from day one," end quote. So first off, prayers to Sav. Not looking good for your man who is betting against this, but
he's holding on, though.
This is all we were asking for, right? A lot of people were asking, like, day one Game Pass for Persona 6. I said, no, just day and date. Let it be there. That's all people want. Let it be there. So, Cog, your thoughts on Persona 6 looking more and more likely like it's going to arrive on Xbox?
I feel so good right now. Feeling so good right now. Man, I haven't felt so cocky in a minute. I saw this news. Shout out to Attic for he threw that news right across my desk. I was like, oh, really? Oh, you want it on more platforms? Oh, you're looking at greatness for this franchise that many people have missed out on because of the exclusivity. And look, I'm not gonna minimize nearly 30 years on a PlayStation platform as Persona. I remember playing the very first Persona one and on PS1 and seeing the uniqueness of the series. And I knew it was a darker tone and stuff was going on. I was like, wow, this is pretty cool. So look, I get it. And I remember the arguments, I used to battle with Sav, and obviously shout out to Carrick. He was one of the people I would battle with. And, they would tell me the Sega deal was just, nothing but cloud and nothing but partnership. But we've seen, right? We've seen this relationship really foster, really develop. And all jokes aside, I know both of them want this to come to the platform. They were never anti it, just was the talk at the time. Yeah. So again, I attribute this to the hard work by the teams going out. Every Tokyo Game Show, every year, there's a little bit more presence. There's a little more thing. We saw the Sega relationship with the Yakuza series continue to develop where Sega was really happy about what's going on. Then we started to see the Persona love, right? We started to see 5. We started to see stuff coming to Game Pass. Now Tactica, which we all know we're going to talk about later. And I think the big one that really got my confidence to the sky high was watching the Xbox showcase and seeing a new ATLUS IP. I believe it's called Metaphor.
Fantasio, yeah.
Fantastic. In Game Pass day one. Now, again, Persona 6, to your point, I never expected Game Pass day one kind of energy. But the key with the mission with Sarah Bond and Phil has been like, these games cannot miss the platform on launch. That's the key. You could Game Pass Persona 6 later, which I probably predict, it'll be 6 months to a year after. But this is what's important. So I think it's definitely happened. They're literally telling you in the investment call. It's only a matter of time now for the official announcement. Yeah. So, and shout out to Switch, because Switch is going to be a part of this as well. So they're going to do numbers, man.
And huge.
It's going to be huge, 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 huge. So yeah, this is happening. And Sav, it's only a matter of time. I love you, brother. You are right on 90% of everything you do. You are always, it's rare to beat Sav. I'm telling you right now, I don't beat this man a lot.
You got to celebrate when you beat him.
I got to celebrate the few victories I get. This man is always right. So yeah, this is a good one. And more importantly, Xbox community, this is a win. You're getting day and date one of the biggest titles of JRPG. So this is a good
100%. I wanted to connect it actually to this next news story so I can get into my thoughts. Like a Dragon, The Man Who Erased His Name, is the second most played game from the series during its launch week on Xbox, taking second place for its player numbers in the first week behind Yakuza 0. So, just a little note here, Cog. I don't see Ichiban in the top 2.
Oh, okay.
I'll be interested to see where Infinite Wealth lands.
Oh yeah. I mean,
I'm very interested.
They weren't giving you away for free, right? They was giving him away. Okay, I just want to make sure that he wasn't paid, because my man was paid. You had to pay.
Player count metric matters. Okay. I'm just saying. Right. Kiryu is a driving force here.
Clearly. Yeah. I have a lot to say about this. But this is good. All jokes aside, our little rivalry. This is good. And Yakuza 0 also, huge, which is kind of A lot of people consider it save the series in general, great prequel and give you that backstory. And look, I'm just happy, man. People are playing these games. And for me to connect it, the series as far as the lore is a big deal for me. So salute to Kiryu, your man. We're going to talk about him later.
Yes, I'm looking forward to hearing your thoughts.
Yes.
I bring all this up because I think clearly Sega saw what happened with Yakuza and wants the same for Persona. Persona is very popular and very good, but it could be bigger, no doubt about it. It could be Final Fantasy levels big, and I think that's what they're going for. Now with Yakuza, that's a series that I will always say was fantastic, but when it came to Game Pass is when it really blew up. Because then you all had people talking about it. You see getting numbers like these. It's like a borderline annualized franchise. There's just anticipation and conversation because it went multi-plat, right? And so this is a big deal for them, where they saw this surge in popularity and invested more than ever. So I think with Persona, clearly the investment is there. We'll talk about Persona 5 Tactica later. It just got a recent spin-off, right? So they're investing in the series, but they want to see that mainstream success. And how do you do that? You bring it to all the systems now that they've gained their popularity, right? They've gained the demand, and now they're ready for that big explosion because they're going to go multi-plat. I always think this is the right strategy, what they've done here, Sega, with Yakuza and like Persona. Build up your base on one platform, focus your resources to make the best possible game, and you'll gain a fan base over time. And then when the popularity is there and the fan investment's there, at its arguably peak following Persona 5 and Persona 5 Royal, like the largest amount of interest, like when Joker was announced, that was a huge Game Awards reveal. Like that was one of the biggest announcements at the Game Awards, and it was DLC, right? And it included Persona 5. So it's up there. It's clearly a mammoth. But now there's that feeling, that factor that's going to play in of like, wait, everyone can get this. So I wouldn't be surprised if they actually hit these numbers in a full year. I think they could do it. Because especially it depends on one thing, because I think Final Fantasy 16, while it did find success financially, and that's awesome, I think it does speak to maybe to a lesser degree, now that we have the full stats, how sticking to the core essence, can that drive sales or deter them? Would 16 have been a complete runaway landslide victory if it didn't go all in on action and stayed more traditional as Final Fantasy did? If Persona 6, I'm curious what this game's going to be like, because following Persona 5's release, to me, Persona 5 Royal is like the best turn-based game ever made. Like just raw combat with the baton pass, the weakness targeting, one more, all-out attack, like just all these little things that they do. It's such an interactive turn-based battle system, and it makes it easier, no doubt about it, but it feels so good to play. So I just wonder what they're going to do next, because with these spin-offs, it's almost like they're marking things off. Like you see with the Tactica, it's like, okay, tactics is crossed off. The Strikers, it's like, okay, full-on action RPG is kind of checked off. So they're going to keep it turn-based, and I hope they do, because I think that will drive its biggest success, no doubt about it, is if they stay to the essence of what made it a demand in the first place, which I expect they will.
Absolutely.
All right, next here on the list, Larian has announced Baldur's Gate 3 Deluxe Edition, a physical edition for the game, and it arrives in Q1 2024 for Xbox, PlayStation, and PC. It will go for $79.99 US, boasting a 3-disc OST, map, poster, stickers, and patches alongside, of course, the game itself. Mind you, all of the game on disc. So all of the game is on 3 discs for Xbox. All of the game is on 2 discs for PlayStation 5. Zip Davis writes in, hey, physically beefed up Dukes. Maddie, have you seen Larian's Baldur's Gate 3 physical edition that is content complete on multiple discs? I've been wanting to play this game since the PC beta, and I'm glad my patience paid off waiting for a physical version. I hope more devs follow this and give these great games the love and care they deserve. We need more of those retro rebound complete in box experiences to keep us all going. I hope you both have a great week. Thank you, Zip Davis. We appreciate you. Yeah, this is exciting. This is really exciting. And of course, this is all happening before the release date announcement for the Xbox version that is coming at the Game Awards. Yeah, I think it's going to be come on, shadow drop there. But this is a fantastic physical edition, especially for everything that's packed in here and the fact that it's all on disc. Like, to me, this is this is one of those pickups you do. This is a support the devs pickup, right? You support the devs with this one, right? I love that we're seeing this content on disc type movement. I love that Larian's doing this. It shows that it is possible. I love that PlayStation did this with Spider-Man 2. That's why I was all over the physical copy. I was like, I need to support that. Like, I need to show you what you're doing is absolutely 1000% worth it, and it matters. And I think we should never get away from that. So I love that Larian is doing this with Baldur's Gate 3. I've been playing this a lot. Some of my playthroughs slowed down because I've been doing a lot of retro rebound work, but it is still phenomenal, and really have been digging it. Cog, are you picking up this deluxe edition, or will you just be waiting for the shadow drop? Are you going to wait till Q1 2024? Or is it one of those things where like that window could get crowded real fast?
That's my problem, bro. Like, this thing was in my cart 2 times. And I'm like, you should do it. You got to do it. You got to do it. And then I'm like, the problem is you're going to have to wait until January. And I don't know if you looked at January's release schedule, but Tekken 8 is in that schedule. And Infinite Wealth, sir, is also in that schedule. So
yeah, competitive window for sure for you.
It's just not gonna happen, honestly. So what I might still just do it. I may double dip on this just for principle, because I want to support the physical edition of it. And I am see, where they got me is the OST. Cog is an OST guy.
You like the CDs? See, to me, it's almost like novelty, because I don't ever use them. Like, I got it for Danganronpa. Like, I used to get so excited when I saw a CD, and I'm like, I never use these. Like, I don't own a CD player.
Yeah.
I love vinyls, but sorry, go on.
No, you're right. You're right. Because it's an antiquated format in a sense. But for me, the reason why it's important, remember, Cog's iTouch, Cog is the guy that uses video game music. And sometimes you'll have situations like this where the music won't be up on a storefront. And I'm just like, now it should be theoretically with this, but usually when I get to OST, okay, I could rip it, I could do my tech stuff, and I could add it to my own personal. Because the worst thing I hate is when you play a game and you're like, damn, that's my song right there. I love this joint. And I can't download it. I can't find it. I can't.
That's me up until recently. Yeah.
Bro, there's some joints right now like that. I'm like, man, I love this track. Like, I can't do nothing. Right. So that's where the OST, I could do my, Cog old school IT tech, burn that joint, add it up in the, in the thing, and add my own little custom artwork. And it's on the iTouch, and I'm jamming out while I'm working out. So that's probably the reason why I will probably still do this. But I'm going to play the what's going to hurt though. Actually, I take it back. I might wait. When's the Game Award?
Game Awards is the 7th, I think.
Yeah, we got. See, if I see, it's a risky situation. If I wait 2 weeks and then pre-orders is gone, I'm through.
Okay, so I can reassure you.
Okay.
I forgot what his title was at the company, but he said,
what did he say?
Something along the lines of like, if you see people buying it online and trying to resell it for a higher price, they said we have like a surplus of stock. There's no stock shortage.
Okay.
Don't buy into that. Like,
okay,
we have plenty. So yeah, okay. I think you're okay for a couple of weeks for sure.
Yeah, because the plan is just make sure they don't do no, oh, by the way, Game Pass. I don't, you know what I'm saying? Like, then it's like, oh man, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. So, that's the only thing.
You can definitely hold out until then.
Yeah. So I just want to just make sure that I survive that bullet, to make sure there's no, secret squirrel stuff going on behind the scenes with Larian and Xbox. And that's it. But yeah, this definitely has interested me though. And salute to this physical version. Super
Absolutely. Dope. I'll just add this one in because it just broke. Warhammer 40k Space Marine 2 has been delayed to the second half of 2024 to provide the time needed to properly polish the game and ensure the best experience possible. This is said by Focus Entertainment. So
yeah,
just a little update there. That game looks phenomenal, so I'm glad they're taking the time to get it all polished up. The delay was expected because I think it was supposed to, put in quotes, launch this year. So yeah, it's getting moved to the second half of 2024. So any thoughts on this delay, or no surprise?
No, I mean, look, gotta polish this thing, man. Make sure it's right. The premise and the foundation is there. It looked good. It looked fun. Yeah, take your time. Do what you got to do. Cog's never mad at that.
100%. Let's move on to the next one that's actually on our list here. Warner Bros. Has confirmed that Wonder Woman from Monolith is a single-player game, despite a recent job listing that we covered last week suggesting otherwise. Daniel J. writes in, Greetings, Dukes. I wanted to update you guys on the Wonder Woman game that was brought up last episode. WB has since confirmed that the game will not be live service. As someone who is a massive fan of Shadow of Mordor, this game honestly has a lot of potential in my eyes. A Wonder Woman game with the Nemesis system could potentially be DC Spider-Man PS4. I don't hope for games to fail, but I hope that Suicide Squad is a painful reminder to WB to stop butchering their talent for live service models. Here's hoping that Wonder Woman is a big reminder to WB what the audience wants and a return to form for Monolith after Shadow of War. Hope you guys have a great Thanksgiving weekend and keep up the great work. Also, Cog, you've got to play Arkham City. Matty isn't kidding when he said it's the best of the best. If you had to play only one Batman game, let it be that.
Fair enough.
A message here. Daniel, thank you for writing in. I wanted to update this story because I hate to be that guy, but I'm not concerned. I'm just a little skeptical. I'm going to remain a little bit skeptical only because of Shadow of War. Because Shadow of War is a single player game, but it was heavily monetized. And so that's where I'm like, okay, why are you hiring for live service though? So I'm not, especially after this massive commitment from WB to live service games, but the clarification is appreciated. And it went from like, my hype is dead to like, okay, I'm going to hear you out. And I'm definitely interested because I was very excited for this. I think Monolith is fantastic. Yeah. 2014 was a barren year for good games. Shadow of Mordor was a standout bright spot, especially with that Nemesis system. There's nothing quite like it. And there never will be anything quite like it again that will be iterated upon from other developers because it's trademarked. So there you go. So you can only get it through what's happening here at Monolith. I'm curious how they toy around with it with Wonder Woman, if at all. But I'm looking forward to this one quite a bit. So, Cog, what are your thoughts that Wonder Woman actually may be a single player game, according to WB?
Yes, please. Yes, please. That's what I wanted to hear. This is what made sense to me. You know, I didn't understand what they were going to do with live service. Maybe to your point, there's a live service monetization component with suits, skins, that kind of. Yeah, that's probably what it is. And they probably want to get some type of a bag on a single player game because it didn't make sense. I'm like, what is she going to be doing? What are we doing in a live service Wonder Woman? Like, it was just weird to me. So I was so disappointed.
Time savers. Right? Time savers. I care less about those now, honestly. It's to be expected.
It's to be expected, right, at this point. So I'm figuring it's that kind of Ubisoft energy that they will try to include all these little tidbit suits and battle whatever pass on top of a core single player game is probably what I'm guessing now. So no, this is overall still good stuff.
We have next here on the list Xbox, who apparently isn't doing too hot in Europe as Series X and S console sales are down 52% year on year compared to October 2022. The likes of the UK and Germany aren't tracked for in this data. Instead, it's made up of Belgium, Denmark, Finland, France, Italy, Portugal, Russia, Spain, Sweden, and Switzerland alone. Brandon writes in, hey guys, can we start talking about the poor Xbox sales in Europe? According to gamesindustry.biz, Xbox Series sales are down 52% year over year. I hear Xbox fans complaining about Xbox tax and how everyone can get a fair shake, or how can Xbox ever get a fair shake when over 80% of game reviewers ask for multi-platform games on PlayStation, which indicates a PlayStation preference when game reviewers are simply reflecting the marketplace reality. I am an Xbox fan, but I'm kind of tired of Xbox fans saying Xbox doesn't care about console sales, so neither should we. And then we get upset when we witness the effects of a marketplace that doesn't care about the Xbox console. Can we just admit that we want Xbox to sell more consoles and that it's bad that Xbox does so poorly in non-North American markets? Hell, Xbox isn't even the lead console for North America either. Cog, your thoughts on these stats?
Brandon's upset. But all jokes aside, no, you're making some valid points in there. I don't want to get too crazy when the UK and Germany aren't part of it. I think UK is a huge deal. So for them not to be included in the sales data is still something I'm not, especially with what just happened with ABK, right? And how that region with the CMA was so vital. But to his point, yeah, I mean, it's not good to be year over year down 52% from last year. And I believe I saw some stat as far as Xbox console sales, as far as tracking, I think even worse than Xbox One from where they are right now. These are things that have to improve, right? Look, is console sales their primary driver? Is the end all be all for them? No, that part is true. However, it still makes up part of the pie, and we still know that they're going to be making another console. So they want consoles to sell, right? So to me, this comes down to why you do the deals, why you do the Microsoft, the Activision, Blizzard, King deals. That you have to, and again, that's why I feel the Call of Duty deal was so important. You have to bring value to the console, to what I consider the casual market. And they've done a bad job. We just can't sugarcoat it in these other regions, and they have to improve. That's what I feel, because you need the mind share to then get people to the service. And I think it will be. I think that honestly, as much as it sounds weird to say, the generation is still fairly young. So my thought is ABK deal finalizes. We already know the ZeniMax thing. We started to see this year, as far as stuff like Starfield and that engagement and them having a great year, how things were trending up towards in Europe and other regions. I think it will continue to trend up in the years to come, but it's all going to come down to the software available in these services. Is it compelling? Because as you can see, when you have good software, it makes people go out. It makes people subscribe. It makes people, get a console. So I think I'm going to actually predict, I think they're going to be fine. I think this is going to improve. I expect 2023 was going to be the turnaround year. 2024, I think it's definitely all boots on the ground, especially when you see a Call of Duty packaged with a series console. When you see that, and that deal, what we're going to assume now that they just transitioned, they said we're going to have to wait a little bit. So I'm assuming maybe first half of 2024, you'll be able to include Call of Duty, you'll be able to include Diablo, you'll be able to include all these things that you've acquired into this service. When you do that and you have that brand associations with the console, this is going to change. So it's bad right now, yes, but it will improve.
I agree. I don't think I have anything actually to add on to that. You perfectly put it. So we'll move on. This comes from Charlie Intel. Activision says Modern Warfare 3 has, quote, set records, end quote, for the highest player engagement out of the current Modern Warfare trilogy, and Modern Warfare Zombies is the most played co-op mode in Modern Warfare history. Now, you know what? This actually doesn't surprise me. I've heard really good things about the game's multiplayer.
That's what I heard.
I've heard really good things about the game's multiplayer. And so to that aspect of the package, kudos. And I'm glad. I actually wasn't being sarcastic.
Like to that side of the fence.
I was actually being genuine. I was like, kudos. Like, I'm glad that they have. Okay,
my bad.
Yeah, I actually was saying like that slice. Like, I'm glad. I'm glad that there is something good in the package. Modern Warfare Zombies, I will just say, I'm not touching. Doesn't look like my cup of tea here. I'm gonna be honest. I like the claustrophobia of zombies. I'm not even saying that as an old head. Like, I'm not saying you got to go back to World at War, maps that are size of your fingernail, but I like the intricacy and the secret tunnels and the unlocks and stuff. I really liked that approach always. And even in Black Ops Cold War, which I like their zombies, they remade like really old zombies maps, like the first ever Nazi zombie maps. And to me, that was like really cool. But even that was so big and open that I miss when it was a lot tighter. And so for me going open world, it's pure taste. Like, that's just the opposite of what I want. Like, I just would never be interested in that. Like, I don't want open world zombies. It just sounds super unappealing. I need rounds in my zombies. Like, I need all of that. I need the secret unlocks, the Easter eggs, the pack-a-punch. I need all of that. So I'm glad it's getting play. I'm glad it's getting engagement. It shows that, as we've talked about before, this is the worst reviewed Call of Duty. And it also shows just how this series manages to, like, because here's what happens, right? When you have a good Call of Duty for the average Joe, it's an easy pickup. Like, oh yeah, let's go, Greg COD this year. When it's a bad one, I was going to pick it up anyway. I got to see how bad this shit is, right? Like, it's already money spent for these people. So it's going to get purchased either way, no matter what these reviews say. And in fairness, what I will say is this. I imagine for most of the casual market, even as someone who absolutely slammed the campaign around alongside many other people, I'm sure most of the casual market looks at it and goes like, I don't give a fuck about the campaign, bro. There was a year that Call of Duty wasn't going to, or didn't have the campaign.
Yeah.
Like, so I get it from all angles here. I get the disappointment that it's doing well. I get why it's doing well, et cetera, et cetera. So Cog, thoughts on the engagement level here? No sales, the engagement level here for Modern Warfare 3. And I bring that up not because I know we talk about, for example, Starfield, like the importance of the engagement metrics, but Activision has shared Call of Duty sales
Yeah.
in the past.
In the past.
They have. So it's clear that Modern Warfare 3, and it's going to be tough because I think MW2 got $1 billion in like 10 days. Like, it's going to be very tough to lap that.
Yeah,
so I don't know if that's also a product of like the sky high success. But they have yet to share sales. So what do you make of the engagement numbers we have now?
The engagement numbers are key for me because, again, as a person who hasn't played in a long time, I do agree with the point that even though the campaign is valued critically by reviewers and ourselves, the most people, bro, I remember it like yesterday. You get the new joint, yo, bro, we getting that MP, we getting that multiplayer, that. It's always been that type of game, to the point where, remember, Activision had the metrics and they were like thinking about getting rid of the campaign because they're like, yo, bro, you guys don't really play it. We got the stats to prove you guys don't really play it. But when they did it, it was an uproar like, nah, fam, you still got to give us the complete package, right? Regardless of that. And then they kind of acquiesced, they went back. The key that is so interesting with this game, and I got to play it at some point because, again, I got caught up with the game. When we get to games, play the games, you'll see what games I got caught up with. But
I see.
The reason why I want to play, yeah, exactly. The reason why I want to is because this is like the community is like, yo, this game is good. Like, I keep going to the hardcore guys saying, how do you feel? Because I'm saying this is the worst rated joint ever. And they're saying the multiplayer is like they've listened. It's so much fun. The zombies is this. So this is the most like user score versus critic score disparities I've seen. Now campaign, everyone seems, for the most part, seems to agree with you that they kind of phoned this in. It's short.
They absolutely phoned it in.
Yeah, like everyone that's a critical reviewer at least will say that. The people who are new say, nah, fam, but it's still a decent. It's just not comparable to the others. So I'll judge that for myself when I get to it. But I'm just telling you what I hear.
No. I just feel like people are still ignoring. I'm not rooting for its downfall, but I think what people are missing here is like, this game is comprised of reused Warzone across campaign and zombies, and then reused MW2 maps. Like, there's very little original about MW3, and that's like its biggest problem. Right. I know I love a good nostalgia dive. Don't get me wrong, but like that's a big part of the problem here is that there's not much originality attached to it. Like, I loved Black Ops Cold War because I thought the multiplayer was fun and refreshing. I thought the zombies was a good throwback, but had some new elements added. And then I liked it. I loved the campaign. I loved how they focused on stealth and negotiation and choice and all that stuff. So I mean, interrupt. Just like
no.
That's the thing is, like, even if you like MW3, I just encourage people just ask for better because
absolutely
they're capable of more of this. And hopefully, Xbox affords Sledgehammer a full development cycle so they can really show you what they're capable of.
No, absolutely. I think the argument, let's just be brutally honest, really had nothing to do with you and your assessment and the fact that your assessment is accurate. I think that the issue where people are having, let's just get to it. The rumors in the street is there is an Xbox tax, right? So the rumors in the street say
I've seen
that even though it is not a highly rated Call of Duty, is it a rated of 4 out of 10 worse Call of Duty? That's really what the issue is. I'm just going to get to it. That people, I can't comment. I haven't played it. I can't comment. And I haven't played Call of Duty in years. So I'm definitely not the person to be talking about this until I get a hold of it. But I think that's what it is. So the consensus is like, well, why is it a 4 out of 10 now? What has changed? I'm just telling you what people, I'm not telling you I agree. I'm just telling Realm of the Dukes. I'm just telling y'all what people are saying, what I see the streets. Now, the thing that is interesting to me, why I thought this was an interesting topic, is that, again, now with the multiplayer, I didn't hear the multiplayer was rated low, but people are raving about this. Like, when I go to the forums and Charlie Intels and the guys that do this stuff every year, they're like, bro, they listen. This is great. Zombies is amazing. So it is interesting to see them flex. But to your point, I will say they flex what the sales numbers are, because I do agree that Modern Warfare 2 is probably that Superman level status that they ain't
It'll be just marked in the headlines as like even if it made like $750 million, which is a ton of money, it'll still be marked as like, oh, it fell off from MW2, and so they're trying to avoid the bad headlines.
Exactly.
I mean, there's no doubt that when the game was originally an expansion, I think I said it in my review, but if I did, this game is absolutely profitable, like 100,000%. Like, they did not have to. It's still a big budget project, don't get me wrong, but like with how much they had to pull from old stuff,
Yeah.
I
No,
mean,
no, I
my
agree.
God, man, they
I
probably save so much money on this. They're probably raking it in right now.
oh, easily.
Xbox is probably thrilled in the financial sense because they're like, wow, so this is what we do when we keep costs low on Call of Duty. Like, at least that's my assumption. I could be wrong.
Yeah, hopefully, like you said, give the developer cycle. I just find it interesting that people who are just Call of Duty fans who don't care about who acquired what are actually pushing back and saying, I'm surprised that the game is being rated low because this is the most fun I've had in Call of Duty. This is just a very intriguing time with this Call of Duty stuff. But I am going to play it because I want to be able to talk about it from a position of authority because I haven't played it yet.
Next up on the list here, this was announced today as we record. Cyberpunk 2077 Ultimate Edition arrives on December 5th, both physically and digitally, including the base game, all of its updates, and Phantom Liberty in one package. CD Projekt Red has clarified that Phantom Liberty is on disc for Xbox. Meanwhile, for PlayStation and PC, your reaction cracked me up, is a download code. I know, right? It was kind of weird. I don't know how it got this way, but it is this way. So that's great. I know where I'm gonna buy my game. Like that's a pretty simple choice for me. Cog, are you gonna be picking up the Ultimate Edition for Cyberpunk 2077?
Yeah, I gotta see how that box. What goodies they giving me? What they giving me with that? I want to see. What's going on?
I think it's just the new retail copy of the game.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think it comes. Well, I don't know. CD Projekt Red always packs a little something inside the manual section. Like I remember Witcher 3 when I bought it on Switch. I mean, they had like a map in there and stickers in there. So I wouldn't be surprised if they did a little something like that for Cyberpunk.
Yeah, get a little samurai jacket. I don't get a hoodie. What
Oh, it's not like a collector's edition.
It's not, you know me. Come on, you know what I do. I might wait if they decide to repackage and stuff like that. I love the gear. That's me. So we'll see.
All right. Borderlands 4 and Tiny Tina's Wonderlands might have leaked as a profile for a senior and technical production director writes that they are working on both games via Unreal Engine 4. The individual worked at Gearbox for 3 months from May 2022 to July 2022. In 2021, Randy Pitchford basically confirmed Borderlands 4's existence by saying in a tweet that, quote, they are working on the big one, end quote, in reference to Borderlands and encouraging people to apply at Gearbox. So, Borderlands 4 seemed kind of written in the stars. Interesting twist here, though, Cog. Embracer, the one who is scattering to figure out a Star Wars game now, also owns Gearbox.
Yeah,
and there have been reports that Gearbox might be sold off from Embracer. So I wonder, because I feel like Embracer, if there's two games they wanted to hold on to, it's Borderlands 4 and it's KOTOR. Especially Borderlands. Borderlands 3 was the, I think, highest grossing game 2K has ever published. Crazy when you think of the games that they've put out. So Borderlands, like, even if I've fallen off of Borderlands, like I did not like Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, Borderlands 3, my hype was immeasurable for that game and it disappointed me. So I feel like I've just kind of almost outgrown Borderlands. So I'm interested in 4 from like a long-term fan looking to get back in perspective. But what do you make of this in the terms of a release window? And, given that it's been since 2019 for Borderlands 4, it's only been a couple of years since Tiny Tina's Wonderlands 1, and with Embracer in the mix and, of course, all of the potential selling off. How do you think this one's going right now?
Yeah, look, I'm going to say murky, but it is interesting with that Embracer relationship. Embracer is in the news for the wrong reasons. You know what I'm saying? Just way too much. And I have to be honest, look, Borderland fans don't come at me, but I just gotta be real. Like I respect you, right? I respect you as the OG in the looter shooter genre, right? I'm a Destiny fan. I know Destiny has some aspects of Borderlands because those are the OGs. But I gotta be real. Like I feel like I don't know, like y'all like a relic of a time period that ain't really hitting no more. And what I mean by that is that Borderlands, to me, as great as it is, the humor can be subjective. And I think that for whatever reason, the first two had the perfect formula. It was the right time. The jokes hit. And it's just like your favorite comedian come back, but he older now. And he not really Like, I'm an Eddie Murphy fan. Like, I don't know if I could do Eddie Murphy stand up now. Like, when he had Delirious and he had, Raw, these classic stand ups that I know him for, that were just periods of the time that he was at his peak. And then you go away and everybody's kind of caught up a little bit. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's Dave Chappelle's outside. There's other, Chris Rock, Kevin Hart, whatever, right? I'm just joking. But all things aside, I'm very curious about the history, how Borderlands is going to work in this time frame, and the key for me is going to be that humor. Is it going to hit hard the way that we've known it to be? Because a lot of people complain about, a lot of people say, hey, I don't know. So then you got to embrace it, just selling things off, laying off, what's the whole status of them as a company from a foundational level, with Gearbox being owned by them. Who knows what's going to happen? I know I was lucky, excuse me, with Randy Pitchford when I remember they announced Borderlands 3. I was there for that, and that was really cool. That was when you see the crowd get hyped, stuff like that. So there will be hype. There will be initial excitement for this type of announcement, but there's a lot of pressure on this series to me because, again, I look at you as the OG, the old dog, and, you get a little older than Tooth, and I just feel live service, as much as you kind of created it, I mean, Looter Shooter, excuse me, kind of been lapped. So we gonna see. We're gonna see. I am a little, I think I will say that because I feel there's a lot of pressure on them to really deliver, especially after the last one, so
yeah,
we'll see. Pulling for them, but we'll see.
Yeah, I'm again, as someone who I think where Borderlands has lost it. I think the gameplay is just fine. Like, I granted, I don't play a ton of looty games. Last time I can think I really loved on something that was very, very loot driven, live service model inspired, was Division 1. Like, I really, I put like 70 hours into that. Like, I loved going in the dark zone, just loot. So many games Borderlands is obviously, I heard you saying, like, it was a big product of the time, right? Like, when it was Borderlands 1 and 2 and they're just vomiting out loot, it was like, this is the best shit ever. And then so many companies, even in different genres, like Neo is known for its loot vomits, and like that's a Souls-like game. Like it's become so overly saturated that even though they're the originators of the idea, you've got to come up with, in my eyes, something new. And that's why I was excited for Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, because I'm like, I've said for Borderlands for years, it feels like they're slow on the uptake with some ideas. I'm like, why don't you do like armor drops for your loot? I know a lot of games do that, and it took them until Tiny Tina's Wonderlands to do that. I was so surprised that Borderlands 3, at least in its base version, didn't have any of that. Yeah, man. For me, what's really lost me though, and is in the writing talent. It's just not the same beast anymore. It's just, when you look at the humor and the witty approach and the dark nature of Borderlands 1 and 2, where you had this beautifully struck chord between dark humor and sad moments. Like, Borderlands 2 has a legit great story. It really does. And it's almost like its popularity is what hurt it, because then you get the pre-sequel afterwards, which I think is awful. And you see fun spin-offs like the Telltale one, which was great. From what I've heard, by the way, haven't played it.
I co-signed hard for that. Oh yeah.
And then Borderlands 3 comes around, and it's like your main villains are streamers, basically. And like, they're really like, I'm good for some fart humor and like very immature humor. Like, you've all heard me talk on this podcast for hours and hours. You know my humor by now. But Borderlands 3, like, it had one moment that I always go back to that was like, that's the Borderlands. So whoever wrote this scene gets it. It's a side quest. It involves a birthday party. Okay. And you're going there, and this guy's celebrating his daughter who lost like her life. Like, she's gone now. And so you're competing in this tournament she's the record holder for all of them. And you're just blasting through the entire set of contests and just wiping her from existence pretty much. And the guy's like, oh, nice. I guess you won, huh? And it's so fucked up, but it's so funny. And that's what Borderlands is known for. I'm like, that's messed up, but that's great. Like, that was hilarious. And I feel like they're just, I feel like they're just missing that element, which a lot of their writing talent has changed dramatically. But Borderlands 3 was just not encouraging. And when I played that, no one really talked about it. I thought Borderlands 3 at launch was like a technical disaster. Like I had in my reviews, you'll see me falling through floors, lagging all over the place in single player. Like it was pretty terrible. So I just, I'm rooting for them, but I really need some new ideas in that series personally. I know there's a huge community attached to this, though, that probably could not give less of a fuck of what we have to say. Dragon's Dogma 2 is releasing March 22nd, 2024, according to Peggy, and a showcase is now planned for Dragon's Dogma 2 on November 28th. Hell yeah.
Yeah.
So this is seemingly the game that Capcom was saying we have like one big game in the first quarter of the year. I believe this was my prediction. It was either this or our Monster Hunter. Yeah. And I'm happy that it's going to be Dragon's Dogma 2, it looks like. This game, I actually, where is my Switch? Got so many handhelds on this desk.
Everything's handheld around you.
Yeah, I literally have the Portal to my left, ROG and Logitech to my right. Anyway, been playing Dragon's Dogma on my Switch for a little video. And just, it's such a unique game. I'll tell you in a moment. And this is what sells me on the whole series, right?
Let's go.
Is I'm running out of this major city and there are these soldiers that are trying to wheel up cargo into the city, right? This is all happening dynamically. Some goblins come in, they ambush the cargo, the whole thing's on fire, everyone's fighting. So I'm joining in the fight. I'm like, all right, let me help my brothers and sisters out. Like, here we go. I'm cutting down goblins. And then out of nowhere flies in a griffin and just slams in on a goblin. And I'm like, yo, shit. Like, and so everyone turns their attention to this.
Like, what's going on?
And I'm like crawling on its back. It flies up in the air. I'm above the sky. I'm like cutting this thing, trying to get it to land. I fall off, I die. But point being is like, that's Dragon's Dogma. This mixture of like open world and anything could happen at any time, kind of like Monster Hunter world, where that's what I loved about the game. Like you never knew where the monster would be lying and who they'd fight up against in that hub. And so Dragon's Dogma 2 is that mixture of, it also reminds me a little bit of Skyrim and it's like openness. The world is very dangerous in Dragon's Dogma. Like you want to stick to the main roads. You don't want to wander in the woods and just be like, oh, what's going on out here? Like you want to stay safe. The pawn system is fantastic. I cannot wait for this game to be more. I'm so excited about it. Anytime I play Dragon's Dogma, I'm like, dude, I can't believe we're getting a sequel to this. Like this feels like my little secret game that just never got a lot of attention, even though it kind of did. Like they did Dark Arisen and they did the anime. They've given it a love, but like a sequel, I never expected. Like this was on that list of Capcom games I love that I'd love to see modern Capcom take a crack at with how they're like firing on all cylinders.
Yeah, they're on fire right now.
Mega Man being the top priority, but Dragon's Dogma, dude, like I'm excited. So are you? How are we feeling about this release date? Are we going to make time for this? How are we thinking about the showcase? What do you think we're going to get there? Is this where we get that release date announcement? Let me know.
I mean, showcase sounds about right? You know, Peggy 16. I like when that thing comes out. Yeah. That's how we learning about it. But yeah, man, this sounds about right. Get that showcase going. Capcom's on fire right now. Like they really been cooking with grease. So I expect nothing but greatness, man. And I'm definitely going to check this out. Between you and I believe my homie Nick, who really goes hard for it as well at
great class system too. Yeah. Just so many ways to play. So good. So looking forward to learning more. We'll talk about that in our next episode. NetEase announces Worlds Untold, a new studio led by Mac Walters, who was a veteran at BioWare, and you may recognize that name if you watch my Mass Effect videos because his last project he directed was Mass Effect Legendary Edition. The team is making a AAA near-future action-adventure game with a focus on narrative, world-building, mystery, and exploration. So just an update on, Kaga, I like to support you as my very close friend, right? And you always say these vets build up their bag, build up their rep at a company like BioWare. They go off, and they set up their own team. Now, it is in partnership with NetEase, but they set up their own team. NetEase isn't that bad, though. But yeah, because I think they're behind your favorite fighting game,
Naraka.
MOBA.
Yeah, Naraka.
Yeah.
Play point.
Thank you. So yeah, that's what's going on there. Any thoughts on Worlds Untold?
I got to see what's going on over there. Obviously, when you hear BioWare veteran, you have my attention. So
It's
now I
cool.
have to really see
20
what's
years
going
in the
on.
company.
Yeah, we got to see what's going on. AAA action adventure game, focus on narrative, world building. We like that. We
Mhm.
like that. Let's see what's got cooking, man. I'm excited. But yeah, like you said, it's always to me the circle of life. New studios all the time getting built out, and that's how we continue to see in this industry. So this is good. And again, good pedigree. So I'm pulling for them.
Last bit of news here. We'll talk about what games we're playing. Remnant 2 has passed 2 million copies sold. So this game was a tremendous success, it seems like. And then I also saw some sales news earlier about how RoboCop was Nacon's best-selling game ever.
Oh, it's doing
So
good.
yeah, it's doing really well.
Ooh,
Best-selling
okay,
game ever
okay.
for them. So
Nice.
and that game looks awesome. I've never seen
Yeah.
RoboCop. I know. I know.
Well, it makes sense based on your age, though. I can't come at
Yeah,
you.
but like
Yeah, I can't come at you.
I don't know, man. This is why I want to do that movie channel. I'm like, that's one that I would watch right away.
Yeah,
Apparently
bro.
RoboCop 3 is like really bad or something like
Yeah,
that. Yeah,
we
like
don't
I
talk
heard.
about
Okay, see, that's the reaction everyone does. Like, we don't talk about it.
that. That don't exist. But we talk about what? We talk about drop them. Yeah, 15 seconds to comply. Like that movie, because I was young when I saw that movie, and that movie terrified me. Like I'm curious your perspective because as a kid, I was like, I'm never going to Detroit. If Detroit is like this, and it was a very brutal movie for it at the time. Oh my god, it was
Yeah,
rough.
see,
I came to the
I
movie
didn't
as a
know that
kid.
when I had
Yeah,
first heard about the movie. I didn't know that it was like extremely brutal. I guess there's like nut shots involved because that's a big
yeah,
mechanic in the game, like
bro.
shooting
All
dudes between
type
the
of
legs.
stuff like that. Yeah, yeah.
Anyway,
Mhm.
that's all the news we've got, Cog. It's time to get into what games you're playing. I'd love to hear from you first. You seem to be grinding a particular series.
Yeah, man. So, like I told you, I started like a Dragon Gaiden, the man who erased his name, Kiryu Kazama, learning, all the things I need to do. And obviously, great incentive for me to play because the devil behind Infinite Wealth is locked behind campaign completion. Shout out to RGG Studios for forcing me to play something. But let me give kudos. First off, as you guys know, I'm new to this series. Like a Dragon is my first. Obviously, it's not a big spoiler. There is a cameo from Kiryu in that game. I won't get into the context, but coming into Dragon Gate, and this is a prequel. This is the events that happened to Kiryu prior to Like a Dragon with my Ichiban. So I wanted to see where his mindset is, learn about the character, and see where he is up to date. I will say, storyline, I've grown to love the character. And the thing about Kiryu, very honorable, just a cool customer, just a smooth dude. Like the swag, the drip, the way he carry it. And he stands on in the hood we call it, he stands on business. Like he's a man of principle. Like you're not going to loyalty and a lot of other factors really play. You're not going to try to play him. And if he finds out, it's on, that you tried to play him. So this story started off slow. I will say but I believe it's the end of chapter 2 or chapter 3. There is a scene that is so powerful that even though lore-wise I know what's going to happen, I was like, yo, they gonna do this? I'm like, oh, yo. And I'm like, wait, Cog, you should know the story. What's gonna happen? This can't go down like this. But it was that well done that for a second, I'm like, yo, and it was movie level emotion, tear jerking type scene.
Yeah,
And
their
just
cutscenes are so good.
oh, so good, so good. So that was my incentives to stick it in. So let's get to it. There is a system, I believe it's called, you meet this character called Akame, and she's like a person who minds the homeless in the town. And basically she has a network and she's trying to save a lot of them. There's a point in the game where you have to establish this relationship with her, build up this network level, which involves a lot of menial tasks, but a lot of these side quests are fun, I have to admit. Now, the game does do something that everyone accused Like a Dragon of doing and penalized it for, which is you got to get, I think like a Dragon said, you have to earn, $1 million or $3 million
Oh
to
no.
So here comes RGG again.
No, not my man Kiryu too. No.
Oh, yeah, Kiryu, you gonna go around the town. You gonna be the neighborhood watch. You're gonna be the neighborhood watch, and you're gonna get to level 10. And if you can't, you are not advancing the story. And you gotta have a certain.
That's awful.
Oh yeah. So we're gonna talk about. I want the same energy. RGG is back.
Yeah, no, let's give it. Yeah, no, this is wrong.
They're back
this is wrong.
doing this stuff. They got 2 little time gates. Now again, are they super bad? No, you could do them in the course of playing the game, but if you want to beeline the story, which is what I was trying to do, I couldn't do that until I met these requirements. Now, the other thing, like I said, some of the side quests, though, really fun, classic Sega, classic art, absolutely hilarious stuff. There's a one where a kid, I think I mentioned a little bit, he's using chat AI to try to get a date. And Kiryu is like, bro, this is not the way. Like, and he's doing all this foolishness. And the side quests are done with care. There's also this Coliseum kind of like arena area where story-wise the game takes you there, but then you have to go back for other certain little things that you can really build up your skill set and do really crazy moves, and stuff like that. So I will say, the combat system, like I told you guys, I really don't like it. I don't care what you guys say. You hold down R bumper, he goes into a focus stance, but the problem is you're surrounded by 10 enemies all the time. Like this game, you're always surrounded by enemies. And the problem is not auto-focusing, you're going to get hit a lot. So, but I will say, when they created the agent style, James Bond Kiryu, I call him. Right? He hit the little thing. You send out these little hornets, these little drones. You got this little cigarette bomb thing. You got this lasso whip that you can kind of get 3 people, circle them around, knock them into other enemies. The cinematic flare with weapon. This game is all about using the environment to your advantage. You see a sword on the floor, you knock a gun out of somebody's hand, you pick that joint up. And if you got rage meter, you do some cinematic John Wick take down. It's air, and you do super damage when you do these. So it's situational, learning your environment and taking out people over, and learning when to switch stances, because agent is really more good for crowd control, whereas traditional Dragon of Dogma, the power stances, the blow, it gets fun. I will say it does get fun once you master it and you've upped the skill levels to higher things to unlock better abilities. Question.
So, are there boss fights in this game?
Oh, yes.
Okay, I'm curious what your thoughts are on this, because I liked Kiwami 1. It's something about it was fine-tuned just right. Kiwami 2, I remember like there was a particular boss fight where I was like, what the hell happened? And it sounds like since you were having trouble with the combat, I'm wondering, what were your thoughts on the boss fights in this game?
The boss
fights
fights
kind of frustrating, spongy, like they'd knock you down constantly, or you had to kind of like rinse and repeat a process to beat them. Okay.
You got to find your cheese. It's spongy on some, but I will say this, even though they're spongy, I actually like the boss fights better only because they're so cinematic and over the top that you could get into it. But as far as from a pure gameplay mechanic, it's kind of cheap and cheesy. Like I just got to be honest. You know what I'm saying? It's like punch, hold it. You do this sweeping type move, and then usually that breaks the defense. Some people have very impenetrable defenses. Some people get to attack you man long. You got to hold on the block, and they'll break your defense, kind of a deal. So again, I look at it as it's a product of an era, right? They compensated by adding an agent system that you could switch on the fly, but it's a product of an era, and I will say it gets fun when you start to learn certain mechanics and stuff like that, but I'm just never going to be a fan of that style of combat if you're going to put a gun in my head to it. That's just where I'm at with it. But the payoff is worth it. The story is worth it. Now, I will say, got to the end. Some things went down. Some awesome callbacks to Like a Dragon, where I was like, oh, this is where you was at when this was going on. Okay, Kiryu, okay. I see what you was doing. And low key, you had my man back. Like, I like you. Like, you know what I'm saying? So I'm like, okay, like, I'm loving him now. Like, and I have listen, Kiryu fans, love your man. Your man is not the issue. It's his combat. I see where RGG had to go away from this combat. But back to the last point, which is, again, I'm not going to spoil too much. But there is a scene towards the end of this game This man is doing all these things for reasons. And you're going to learn what these reasons are. And there's a scene that happens that hits so hard that I had to admit, I was like, man, that was that. I felt every ounce of emotion in Kiryu and why he felt the way he felt when some stuff went down. And it was beautiful. It was beautiful storytelling. And I was just like, you know what? I like you.
I like that you got that out of it, even though you haven't played a ton of the series. That's great.
Because the callbacks were so well done. And they actually show Kiwami 1, him and his old stuff. They show like flashbacks vividly. So really, it's a perfect. I love what RGG said at TGS, the Tokyo Game Show. Like, it filled the gaps. Like, again, I'm not going to disrespect anybody and say don't play the old ones, right? I'm not going to say that. But if you're a new guy like me, don't come in here with fear like, oh my God, I won't know the You're going to get every emotional weight. And there's callbacks that I'm like, wait a minute. There's people impersonating people, and Kiryu is like, bro, this is like he letting you know, like it's so well done. That's what I'm trying to tell you. Like, whoever did this knew that they're gonna be people like me who never really played the old ones. And it is so
explains Game Pass a lot more too.
Yes, it is so woven in and done with perfect explanation narratively. You can't be confused. You be like, okay, he did this, he did that. I get why, this, that. And now this is where he is, and this is why. But I want to give credit to that one of them final scenes when you beat the game that is literally an absolute tearjerker and one of the best stories they did. And I listen, I'm growing it. It came down. I was like, man, that was out. I like you, bro. I like you, bro. We beef over. Beef is over with me and you. You are the man. I see why people love you, and you so damn honorable. And I love that about Kiryu. We good. You the homie. Now I don't like your new haircut. I don't like what you're about to do. Your new haircut is whack. Like, I love everything about you in Gaiden. Like, you got the James Bond, your drip.
There's so many ways to make him look older and cool at the same time.
Yeah, I'm like, what is with this new look? And they really didn't explain it yet. But let me now fast forward to where I'm at. So I beat the joint. I'm like, all right, now.
How long did it take you, by the way?
It's a little grindy. I would say about 15 to 20, maybe 15 to 20 hours. It's not like a short mini game.
I've heard it's like that sounds like it's in the wheelhouse of like where most Yakuza games.
I thought it's a full Yakuza game in a sense. I was like, okay, this is whatever. One did nitpick is that the final antagonist, as great as the character, I love the character. I just didn't feel his story led him to this conclusion. I didn't believe that part, but it's not a bad story. They got a dope character that I felt they could have did a little bit more with. That I'll just leave that alone with. So anyway, back to where I'm at. So you finish it, you unlocked infinite wealth. Bro, it was like 5 minutes in, and I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing. Thank God you guys did turn-based. It is absolutely amazing. And then for Kiryu fans, what you're going to love is that when you're playing with him in this mode with Ichiban, he gets to play like classic Yakuza. So even though it's turn-based overall, the things you can do, first of all, look at this game, the setting is perfect. Hawaii is
very excited
perfect.
About the setting.
It is such a fresh take. We're not reusing assets. We're in a whole new area. Graphically, it's bro, you could get on the little Segway joint. It's hilarious. Ichiban, let's just get to it. The minute you see, he is an absolute fool, as he always is. He's absolutely hilarious. The reverence that he has for Kiryu is so cool because he's in a little puppy dog mode. Like, oh, bro, I gotta hold you down because you here. You know what I'm saying? Like, and then you learn why both of them are there. You learn what's going on because the ends of Like a Dragon Gaiden led Kiryu here, and then Ichiban was led here for something else, and then Kiryu finds out Ichiban is there. He finds him. Then the link up happens. Also, new characters. And here's the beauty of turn-based. I put one of the clips up on my Twitter feed. The creativity that RGG can do with super moves, You just can't do that with a regular old school beat 'em up Yakuza game. The hilarious thing, there's a dude on my team who's a cab driver, right? One of his super moves is to lock you into his cab, drive you around town crazily, and then throw it off a cliff and blow you up. And then he gets out cinematically, like, yeah, how did you like your fare? How did you like your ride? Like, he's the worst Uber driver you've ever seen. Like, this is hilarious stuff. Like, RGG is having so much fun with Ichiban and these characters. It is great. The only thing is the elephant in the room. I got to talk about it, even though, I mean, I met him. He's the homie. Is the English dub. There are going to be some people who are not going to like the English dub of Kiryu, especially after coming off of Guided. And I wanted to play Guided with the English dub, but it's not available right now still. So that's going to be a culture shock for some people. I'm just going to be brutally honest.
Yeah.
The reason for me, I am going to force myself with the English dub is because I love the voice actor. I believe his name is Kenji. I forget, Tan or something like that. That's how I was introduced to Ichiban. I'm
going to try Japanese because I don't think I like the English.
Yeah, a lot of people said that.
Played a huge factor in not liking him. So I'm going to try to do it a different way. But I
respect that.
Was it the Kiryu voice that kind of was like, be honest, it's fine.
I'm gonna be brutally honest. And Young, you the homie, but I gotta be. The reason why is because I've listened to Young Ye all my life. It sounds like Young Ye the YouTuber, right? So, and Kiryu at this stage is probably older, and when I hear the Japanese voice, it's a deeper, it's a gruff. You feel the experience, right? I think that's really what the issue is. I don't really think Young Ye's voice is bad. I just think that he sounds too young. Yeah, he just sounds too young, and it just sounds like there's parts where I'm like, oh, that's Young Ye, like the video. You know what I'm saying? That's all. And some people are not gonna like it.
He's done like he was in Trails into Reverie, and he was totally fine there. He did Arios in that game. Like he is clearly talented. A lot of people, I feel bad for him because a lot of people have taken this chance to really try to destroy him. Yeah. And I'm sure for him is like this first major role. Granted, like there is bias here. Like I do know Young. I have spoken with Young. Like, okay, cool. So, like there is personal bias there. I haven't spoken to him about this, but like I can only imagine. Like it feels pretty bad when like this is your first big role and
the
like,
whole world is coming at you.
Like of like how this ain't a fit. I'll just say the only thing I would say in his defense is I don't think he is a bad talent. I do think this is not a good casting, and it feels like maybe Sega or RGG, whoever made the call here, saw like an opportunity where I know when it comes to voice acting, they pay as much attention to the talent as you're following. And I say that because when I was working particularly with the Fallout 4 voice cast, anytime I brought any of them on for an interview, same with when I interviewed Tom Taylorson about Mass Effect Andromeda, the request from all of them is the same. Can you please promote my social media? Can you put it on screen or something? Because that's how you get more gigs. You can be talented, but like if you're able to be a talented promoter
and get a following.
And so Young is talented. I think they miscast him here personally. But that's also, you got a guy with over 1 million subs, strong voice in the games community. Like that's a talented promoter, right? And so I think they got maybe carried away with the opposite end of it and didn't focus more on what fits Kiryu, where if they did Young for like maybe Yakuza 0, like maybe that would have fit
like younger Kiryu,
more, like a younger Kiryu, because Young's a young guy, so like he shouldn't be voicing guys who are upwards of their 50s or 60s, you know, like it's not a good fit. So I hear you on that. I don't want you to be alone on that because I get it. We're both friends with them, but we also have to be honest, because I say this also because I expect like when my game comes out, I want people to like not be afraid to talk to me about
and be critical,
did, right? Like I want to hear the honest, like not like, oh, I like you, man. So you talk to like behind my back, like this shit was trash, bro. Like, I want to hear that stuff. So
the honest assessment from COG on this is just that he sounds young, right? So the only reason why I am going to stick it out is because one, again, the Ichiban English dub I love, and I've just played it. So this is my first time kind of hearing it, and I'm just going to be fair and hear the whole thing out, and then I'll make my final assessment. But I totally understand people who heard what they heard. It was like, nah, I'm good. I'm going to be over here with Japanese dub. Totally understand. But Infinite Wealth, back to conclude, it's just the perfect thing for the series. The open world, the things that you can do. Now the proximity, the way they interact with each other on turn-based combat. You know, Kiryu's whole redesign for the game fantastic combat wise. He's got 3 styles. One is a brawler style. One is he's just amazing in it. And I'm dying to know where his story goes, as well as these new characters, and then also how the older characters seem that they're going to be in this game. So I want to know how they flew over there. They heard Ichiban is over there. Like, what's going on? Because I'm a big fan of Adachi, Namba, and the rest of the crew. And also, I want to see their interactions with him. This story is hilarious. I want to know what's going on here. And it's Ichiban trying to find his mom. His long lost mom. Remember, he was kind of born in a whorehouse, and now he's tracking her down. So there's an emotionality, what's going on here, and then Kiryu with his story of why he's still over there and who he's working for. What's going? It's an interesting take. I cannot wait. Infinite Wealth has me so excited.
End of January, right? So
yeah,
not much longer.
And Tekken in the same month. I'm finished.
Best of luck to you. That's a brutal combo.
Yeah.
I've been playing 2 games, one old, one unfortunately new. Star Ocean: The Second Story remake. I'm still playing this. This is still really great. I'm enjoying the hell out of it. I am surprised I don't see more people talking about it. I think this is one of the best remakes we've got this year, and should be talked about in the same company as, you know, your Resident Evils and your Dead Spaces. Like, they've really pulled this thing from the ground up and like made it fully 3D, and like the skill system is awesome. I was so like it's confusing at first. Like, you have specialties and then you have combat skills, so you'll have like a percentage to like dodge a certain attack coming in. Like, that's one of your combat skills. But to like enhance those and your core attributes, you're gonna put points into like penmanship or art or mental science or there's a laundry list of skills, and it's like this cascading skill system where from there, as you pump points into that, your skill will increase in like cooking or fishing or drawing, and then you'll be able to get items from the overworld and make stuff out of that. You can upgrade your blacksmithing and make a new sword, but then you can upgrade your customization and like mix a fire gem with your blade and make a fire sword, and so on. Like, the skill system is like, you'll just spend, and this may not sound fun on paper to people, you'll spend like 20 minutes just menu surfing, just going around, upgrading your characters. It's very intuitive. It's very overwhelming at first, and I don't think it's explained well. It took me a good couple hours to really get it, but it's here and it's great. I love the art, like the portraits that come up for all of the main characters, like Claude, Reyna, Celine, and so on. They just beautiful paintings. Not your typical illustration style, which isn't, there's nothing wrong with like, say, how Persona does it. But it definitely is individualized. Combat's a ton of fun. At first, I thought it was a little too easy, but I turned up the difficulty, and also some of the combat encounters have ramped up in difficulty. And so like, it's like really reactionary based, teamwork based. It's very much like Tales. So you're going to be casting arts, dodging, trying to get perfect dodges in. It's great. It's definitely one of my favorites of the year. I really, really am impressed by it. I wish it was getting more fanfare, because I think it's a fantastic one. I've been playing it on my Switch as well. Really good pick up and play game, like anything on the Switch is. So I've been bouncing between that and Dragon's Dogma on Switch. Meanwhile, the new game I've been playing.
Yeah.
Saw this online, and naturally, my content creator brain went, okay, well, I should check this out for the betterment of our audience, just to make sure no one makes a crucial error here. So Walking Dead Destinies. I'd like to highlight something here before I talk about the game.
Let's get to it.
This is published by Game Mill Entertainment, a name that seems to be coming up more and more on this podcast, because this is like a content farm at this point. So they have released in the last couple of months Skull Island, Rise of Kong. They have also released Avatar Quest for Balance. And now they've released this. But, Cog, they've also released Nick All-Star Brawl 2. They also did DreamWorks Kart Racing. All of this in a about 2-month span.
Wow.
They have put out, for me personally, as someone who loves Nick All-Star Brawl, a top 10, maybe, game of the year.
Yeah.
In Nick All-Star Brawl. Top 15, maybe. And then they've dropped 3 in about a month and a half worst game of the year contenders. each one-upping themselves. When I played Avatar, I'm like, that's definitely number one on my list when I do it at the end of the year. Disgusting. Then I play Skull, and I'm like, this is worse. This is a pre-alpha. This might be an alpha. Yep, you're number one now. Congrats. So I update my list. Then I see this shit. And the main reason I check it out is I saw Game Mill on it again. I'm like, are you guys for fucking real right now? Did you really publish this shit too? I'm like, okay, let me check this out. Definitely in the top 3.
Okay.
Definitely awful. But the saving, redeeming quality of it in this atrocity of an experience is the ideas are legitimately great here. If they were given more than, I will put a guess on it, and I guarantee that a story will come out. They got maybe 2 years to make Walking Dead Destinies. If they were given a normal development cycle, this game would have been awesome. So it is a game about the first 4 seasons of The Walking Dead. And some of my favorite, as someone who doesn't watch much television, of my favorite television, Walking Dead, especially those opening 3 seasons.
Yes.
Do not miss at all.
Shane era.
So good. Speaking of which, now, if you haven't seen Walking Dead at all, I have to spoil parts of the early seasons of the show to explain the defining mechanic for Walking Dead Destiny. So if you have not seen Walking Dead at all, I'm going to spoil a couple of parts of the story, so feel free to skip ahead. Okay, 3, 2, 1. One of the big moments in the show on Herschel's farm is when Rick kills Shane, right? One of the saddest moments in the show, too, I think. There are choices in this game you can make that change how things turn out. So instead, you can play as Shane for the rest of the game and kill Rick. You can, in that moment where like Merle and T-Dog are fighting on the roof.
Oh, Marilyn and Dayton.
You can choose to side with Merle and kind of excuse his behavior. And then when you're walking away, he's going to handcuff T-Dog to that railing like they did in the show. And then T-Dog shows up with his hand like cut off with the hook and the eye patch and everything.
Oh, that's dope.
Right? Awesome idea. And there's tons of others. Carl gets shot, right? So they're looking for supplies to heal him. Maggie goes with Shane. Maggie falls with the healing supplies. Do you save Maggie? Do you take the healing supplies and save Carl? And so I chose to save Maggie. I'm just going like kind of against the groove everywhere here. So I save Maggie. Carl dies at this point. Right? So that type of stuff is happening all over this game. The story premise, the narrative premise is fantastic. It really is. Like, even if you're not a fan, just the amount of choices and outcomes, it's a ton of fun to play around with. And even when you're in the camp, like there will be members of your camp squabbling. And while there's no real consequence, there will be like Shane and Lori arguing. And you'll be able to choose whose side you want to take in this argument. And I don't think it gains you anything. I think maybe in its long form development like plans, maybe that was the point, like, you know, relationship meters with each of these people. Right. But you never get that. So you just make a choice and you get skill points. There's like 10 plus playable characters and they all have their own skill trees, some much smaller than others. I think the maximum amount of skills attached to a character is like 6. And so it's really cool in its ideas. Like it that's why it's not like the worst game of the year, but it's such a shame. I'm like, what did The Walking Dead do to deserve this? Like Avatar is popular enough to justify a big budget game. Walking Dead is absolutely big enough to justify a big budget game. And we get things like Survival Instincts. We get shit like this. Blows my mind. So the gameplay is I really, it's almost like you got to see it to believe it. Like there's a point in the gameplay where I show in my Retro Rebound video, like Rick, it's a third person. It could be a third person shooter. Rick is spun around facing the camera, but he's shooting over his shoulder.
Oh, no.
Yeah, like it's that kind of broken. Crazy stuff like that happened. $50 game, by the way. And the balance of walkers is awful. So there's a stamina gauge in this game. Like you'll swing for a melee attack and it'll use your stamina. Makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Now, when you hit a zombie or a walker, it'll weaken them, and then you can press square and you'll like execute them. Okay. Right, cool, works. When you execute them, spends all your stamina. When you swing on them with your weak or strong attack, the amount it takes to kill them spends all your stamina. So there's no winning here, and they'll send I'm not exaggerating, like 18 walkers at you.
Yo.
And so what you got to do is like one stab, run away, recharge your stamina, one stab, run away, recharge, loop and loop and loop and loop. It's awful in its balance. There are so many walkers everywhere. There are points in the story, like opening, I think it's in the pilot episode, where Rick gets into the tank, right? By the way, don't even show him in the tank. When you have to get in there, you drop down into an area and there's a horde of zombies surrounding this tank. And they're like, go on, get in there. And I'm like, how do you even, there's no way for me to get in there. I lucked my way in there as I'm getting clawed apart because you're just running through a horde of zombies and they're just hitting you and grabbing you. And when they grab you, you have to like mash a button and there's like 4 quarter circles. So you have to hit like the X button 20 times to get free when 4 zombies grab you, and then they just kill you. So it's just it's horribly balanced. Looks terrible too. Looks like a low budget game.
Yeah, I'm looking at it
just,
right now.
Yeah, bro. Walking Dead Destinies. I don't blame the developers. I said it in my review. I'm like, I'm not going to blame you guys because I've seen this 3 times now, and I know for a fact that this IP was probably an agreement was made between Game Mill and AMC. And Game Mill, being the publisher they are, they're like, okay, here's $5, a pack of bubble gum, go make the fucking game. And that's all you get. And so that's what we get here. Walking Dead Destinies is a ton of great ideas completely wasted, like a genuine waste. This could have been an awesome game. Absolutely could have. I don't know if I could say for the same for Skull Island. I don't know if I can even say the same for Avatar, but Walking Dead Destinies could have been great. And that's like the biggest crime of all, is that it definitely... I could see how if you looked at Skull Island, I mean, they only were given a year, so maybe it would have turned out great. But, dude, Walking Dead Destinies did deserve better. It's a shame what happened here, but unfortunately is one of the worst games of the year.
Alrighty, yeah. It sucks because when you would talk about the concept, I was hype. I was like, yo, that's dope.
Even the trailers, when you see, they showcase all the choices, like, it's cool. Oh, they got the Redfall slideshow cutscenes, too. Want to throw that out there. No, and that's where you feel the budget too.
That's
like,
where you do the budget.
Moments like it's fully not motion capture, but like it's moving characters on screen, and there's moments it's just
the stagnant storyboard with the slide. Yeah.
That's not great. Damn. We have really 2 warm-up questions here to get into. They're both on the same topic, so I wanted to pick them both and kind of dissect the subject a little further, and then we'll get into the rest of the news. Matt writes in first. Hey, Dukes, loved your conversation last week about the Game Awards. I know you touched on it, but I think it needs to be talked about more, how Hogwarts Legacy was shut out, and we all know why. These award shows are supposed to be fair. Of course, each voter has a bias, but for these things to be legitimate, you have to believe a voter can put aside their personal bias for or against a game and vote for the right entry. Leaving Hogleg out of every category shows that these voters Jeff has assembled can't or won't do that. It makes the entire thing illegitimate. Well-deserving games are going to be left out because of ideological bias, and that's just wrong. I don't know what we can do about it, but it soured the entire thing for me. We deserve a fair and transparent celebration of games and developers kind of day. Meanwhile, Mr. Scott, if you're nasty, really gets into the thick of things more here and says, Sir Dukes, a little bit of a follow-up thought to your last episode. So I think both of you acknowledge that Hogwarts Legacy wasn't nominated basically because of the biases held by the voting parties. Doesn't it stand to reason that developers would take this cue and make more games that align with the beliefs of the voting parties and journalists to sort of boost the scores? I don't know if it's just me, but I've noticed a lot more political messaging within the gaming medium of late. I'm getting older. We have had a Call of Duty not including the American flag, many games including political movement flags associated with one side of the political spectrum, Days Gone reviews that mentioned the main character's skin color and Macho Man personality as a negative, and now Spider-Man 2 with climate change messaging and gender-neutral Spanish, something my Cuban wife pointed out to me. By the way, this doesn't please her as a native Spanish speaker. Is it just me? Am I the only one who just wants to play games without politics or any kind shoved in my face? Is this feedback loop between developers and game journalists leading to the production of side missions with no point other than to push political message token characters that fit a world viewpoint and game iconography supporting only one side? Love the show, gentlemen, and have a there's no way we tackle this politically oriented question kind of day. Well, see, this is why I don't like when people write in with that kind of cap off, because You assumed the worst of us before we even had a chance to explain anything, talk at all. So, Mr. Scott, you're welcome, my friend. So we have two write-ins here based around Hogleg and the lack of its appearance at the Game Awards. And I'm wondering, Cog, if you want to take this a layer deeper here and just talk a bit about what Matt and Mr. Scott had written in about here, about is this affecting the games that are being made is what we're going at. We're not really going to get into our personal beliefs per se, but more so what I would use the term as is design by inclusivity. Are we seeing that more and more in our gaming space where I have thoughts, but is it being done in a way that's designed to win points and win over a particular group of people who are going to cast a judgment on your game that can make or break in some level the success of your title, unless you're a Call of Duty where you get a 4 and you still do extremely well, right? So wherever you want to take this, by all means, I'm curious as to your thoughts on the subject some more.
Look, it's a real discussion, right? It's something that we have to be aware that, again, humans are imperfect. We all have biases. We all have our stances, politically, religious, the whole bit, sexuality, everything. We all are on one side of the fence on something. And, it's not out of the realm of possibility that this will seep into gaming and can seep into gaming. And I think, like I said, the Hogwarts Legacy situation clearly illustrated that, clearly showed that there was definitely a group of people who said your political ideology or what sexual ideology and what you feel about trans characters, trans people, and this is the lore owner, was it J.K. Rowling? I always mess up the last name, but her thoughts, based on her being the surveyor of the law, the owner of the law of Hogwarts, is, hey, we don't agree with you, and you have a game, and even though you didn't make the game, we don't want what you stand for to be represented at the awards. And this is a tricky one because it's not tricky in the sense that she didn't make the game and the developers necessarily did not agree with her. So in my mind, this is not tricky. In my mind, that is the lore owner having an opinion that the developers who made the game disagree with, right? So to me, it shouldn't have been an issue, but we have to be honest, right? There's a lot of politics behind the scenes. There's a lot of funding, and hey, if you have someone who may help fund your show who vehemently disagrees with JK, right? That this could affect things, right? And this is where the politics and the business aspect of these award shows comes in. Who's funding what, who's doing what, and who can be influenced by what. And that's just the natural course of things. So ultimately, what I'm saying is, unfortunately, Hogwarts Legacy was really penalized. I think that, yeah, this is an example that we have to be careful about how this seeps in. Now, I will defend the people, even though I'm not on this side of the fence. The only thing I will say is that, to try to be fair to the other side of this, is that if the developers of the game, let's say, for example, they felt that way, or they had like extreme homophobic bias, and we don't want, I'm making up BS right now. We don't want gay people to play this game. You know what I'm saying? Then it's like, okay, the people who make the game feel this way. And again, I'm not saying it's justified, but I can understand why they'd be like, okay, well, we don't want to include this kind of rhetoric in it. So all I'm saying is, if political stances can be made and there can be bias and people not included in the awards, we have to admit that this show is not 100% on the up and up, or the human element is here. And that's my main point, because people were coming at me saying that no bias exists, that everything is here just based on the merits of the game, and that's it, Cog, you guys reaching. That is not true. This showed me that is not true. And it's a tough one, man. It's a tough one for me because, again, I want games to be celebrated. I want developers for their hard work to be celebrated. And there's going to be gray areas. Sometimes it's going to happen in gaming based on how we feel about certain people. But should the game be penalized? I guess is where I'm at with this. And I struggle with this one. I really do. So this is a great question. It's a great discussion. I'm curious, because I got more to say, and I just want to I don't want to talk forever on this one because I could go along with this one. But, I'm curious to be like on where you side with that, with things kind of like seeping in. And is there, I guess the other question for you is there a point where you go, you know what? Nah, we can't include you. You know what I'm saying? Because this is just wild out of pocket. I'm just curious if anyone what's everyone's line? I'm just curious on this one.
Yeah. I haven't given much thought to a line being drawn outside of like pretty openly grotesque behavior that's displayed by the developers themselves rather than the owner of the IP, whatever form that may come in. I think that's where a line is typically drawn, and most people can agree with it. I think where we start to muddy the waters is when a differing opinion, and I'm not saying whether I agree or disagree, just a differing opinion from what is commonplace in our industry is the one that's getting shut out. That to me is a little strange because I mentioned a term designed by inclusivity, and I don't think it's achieving what many of these people think they're doing. It's like, okay, we've shut out Hogwarts Legacy. We've shut out this game that stands to disrespect particular groups of people. But then you get what I feel are like what that results in is like, I think to stick with Hogwarts Legacy, it's like you get the transgender bartender who's literally just like a flash in the pan character. And I look at that and I'm like, if you want this in games, right? Don't you want something more meaningful, something truly impactful to be done? A character that's not just here is like, to use a term that I've seen in game developer conversations, like a token.
Yes.
It's like, here, this type of person's been represented because they exist in this world, but the meaning behind their existence is nothing more than that alone. And I feel like if we're trying to fight for that inclusivity, the people who are shutting the door on, say, Hogwarts Legacy are missing the point because you're not achieving what I think should be happening, which is like, okay, like let's have a character in the game where this is part of them and there's much more happening beyond there. As a writer, to me, that's something I look towards as I'm writing a ton of characters is like, okay, it's not like, for example, they're just gay and that's the end of that's it. That's the end of the road for them. There's much more to this character. And I feel like that's where we've kind of come to at this road where it's like, we're just missing the point consistently. And I can see how many people felt maybe Spider-Man 2 was just messaging all over the place. Even I was, I usually just kind of like, because the way I look at it is it's art. Yeah. And this was a particularly message-driven piece of art, especially for a Spider-Man game. And to me, it was more fascinating to play from like, I'm almost exploring the worldviews of this studio, and seeing their beliefs play out in real time. And I think that is what art is at the end of the day. I think it could be tastefully represented. And where I've said before, it comes across as like, okay, how genuine is this? It's like when you get the wrong flag in Miles' apartment. It's like, how much did you really care? And if we're advocating for caring more by shutting games out that probably should have never been shut out in the first place, what are we fighting for if the people who are representing aren't doing it well or right at all? And that's where I have the most problem. I think it's okay if we have our own bias and preferences and whatnot. That's what makes us people. But it's like we're stripping out like specific, it's almost like we're trying to clean up something that doesn't need cleaning up. Like Hogwarts Legacy, as far as I'm concerned, is not a controversial game at all. It's not.
I agree.
But we're looking at it through this very particular window, and therefore it can't get nominated at all. And that's insulting to a bunch of hundreds of hardworking developers who made what is now, and I know this particular stat doesn't matter, but it does speak to the desire for it, the best-selling game of the year. Wow. Maybe we'll see what Call of Duty does, but at least top 3 best-selling game of the year. That's insulting to a ton of teams that lined up and put together something that, while I'm not a huge Harry Potter fan, you can go watch my video. I wasn't in love with Hogwarts Legacy. Yeah. As a Star Wars fan, where I relate that Harry Potter fan is like, it's why I'm excited for Star Wars Outlaws. Like, right. I'm looking for that kind of Star Wars experience of like, this is what I dreamt of. And Harry Potter fans finally got that. And I don't think the developers who made that dream a reality after all these years should get punished for that. So that's kind of where I stand on it, is that we need to embrace the diversifying worldviews, because what's happening is games are going to start, if the messaging is so one note, it's going to start to feel the same and look the same, and people are going to start to rebel. And we need to let creators inject their personal beliefs into these games, depending, I'm curious what those may end up being, but I feel like we're getting one side of the coin the whole time. And I think that's what we're missing. So I don't want to go on too long either. That's really where I stand on it, that I think what I'm advocating for more than anything is a genuine way of doing it, a way that doesn't feel like you're like a voting party trying to win over a particular audience by like phony representation. Like do it in a meaningful way, because that's what all of us want collectively. The people who care, at least, is what they want. They want genuine representation, not just like, all right, flick all these different types of people in there, and just as long as they're there, we're good, we're golden. We covered our ass. It's like, no, do it in a right way, because if you're truly trying to convert, you're doing it wrong. You got to show people like through these characters that it's more than like a race or a gender, that there's a story to tell. That's why I respect the hell out of the first Miles Morales game, because I think that was about culture, and that was a really telling experience. I could feel there was a movement there within the team. But that's really all I've got to say on it. So I'll dish it back to you if you got anything else.
The only thing I was going to add on, because you were cooking on that part as far as the fleshed out of the character, and I know this is a game that's not beloved by many, but I felt Dragon's Age Inquisition did a fantastic job with the character Iron Bull. I felt that that was a truly... Like, it was just part of his, somebody had to tell me, the character's bisexual. I had no idea, because it was just such a fleshed out, great character. And he was hilarious to me. Yeah. I was like, this is really well done in voice acting. So I agree with you on if we're going to listen, we have to get a full spectrum. Absolutely. But if we're going to do it, let's do it correctly. And to your point with this whole situation, circling back to the Hogwarts joint, is just that, my only fear is that, because of this situation, again, we can't be naive that in order for Jeff to run this show, right, you need sponsorships, you need people behind you, you need support, you need financial backing. And if the people who are in these positions to help have certain world views, right, and don't want to include certain things, that these are factors that could happen. And I'm just concerned, because, again, developers, I feel, shouldn't be punished if they don't feel the way the creators themselves. I think that's where I'm at. The creators themselves, I have an issue if they were not in agreement with this, and they were siding on the side of transgender people. And I just felt like, damn, the whole studio got to catch an L for this. Like, this is like, nobody ain't murdered nobody. Like, nobody, like, you know what I'm saying? The last point I'll say, and this is your wrestling reference you may get, is, remember the wrestler Chris Benoit? Yes. Very storied wrestler, and arguably one of the more technical wrestlers of all time. Now, as many people know, or those who don't know, he murdered his own wife. He apparently killed his own son. We don't know if it's steroid-induced, rage-induced, whatever. It was a tragedy.
Yeah, right? They said his brain was like that of a 90-year-old or something like that.
Yeah, like when they did the autopsy and stuff like that. And to me, it's like, okay, if the lead developer, or something like that, was responsible, and I could understand that, because this is like, okay, the lead people who worked on it did something heinous, right? Mm-hmm. And it's like, okay, then I can understand it. But it's like, I guess I don't make that correlation when it's someone who wrote the law but had nothing to do with the game, and you find out later. So that, I know maybe it's an extreme example, but I'm just trying to say, okay, what would be COG's line? What would COG say for the people who want to push back at us? I always try to be fair.
I get it, because it's, like, for example, we work at Last Stand, and like, I've lost out on relationships or access, especially as a late access, just because of my affiliation with Colin. And it's, it's more of that. And to me, it's a little bit of a separate subject, but it's just very high. It's very high school, like that.
Absolutely.
Your friend of a friend. Yeah. Him? Really?
Him? Oh, I can't talk to you.
It's like, I just never understood that. And so it's the same thing here with Hogwarts Legacy. It's like, okay, J.K. Rowling made this universe. These people are creating something that explores her world in, arguably a more inclusive way, by the way. And we're punishing that? Isn't that what you wanted?
Ding, 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 ding.
And that's the point. It's like we're missing the point.
Missing the point.
And it's just, again, it goes back to, most of these people don't know what the fuck they want. They don't. Because of what they're cheering on is clearly like not genuine representation. Yep. And so
nailed it.
That's where I stand on it personally.
No, that's literally where I stand.
I just think there's a right way to do it. There absolutely is.
Well said, Mr. Matty Play.
Start off with number one here for the news. Thank you for writing in, Mr. Scott and Matt. We appreciate you. A lot of Starfield tidbits here. Combine them all into one. First and foremost, Starfield's player count is actually starting to be eclipsed by Skyrim over on Steam. Meanwhile, Starfield has dropped to a mixed review rating on Steam, and Bethesda currently has about 250 people working on Starfield, according to Todd Howard when he was speaking on The Wired right now for support. And there is a new update out, 1.8.86, which includes NVIDIA DLSS support, as well as, by popular request, the ability to ingest food and items upon finding them in the environment, so you can just hold the button and do that. It also adds a plethora of performance and stability improvements, gameplay improvements, graphical improvements, quest improvements, all that stuff. So it's one of the bigger patches for Starfield. Probably the smallest part of our conversation to have here today is we're getting into the player count being a hot topic and the mixed review rating on Steam being another hot topic. I want to ask you, Cog, because I would not be surprised if you've logged more hours into Starfield than me.
Yeah, definitely.
The mixed review rating,
yes.
Is it fair?
Mm-hmm.
And the player count eclipsing Skyrim eclipsing Starfield's player count on Steam, is this more of a testament to the magnificence of Skyrim or a slam against Starfield? Because I do think that's a matter of perspective. I'll get into that in a little bit, but what do you make of these two leading pieces here for Starfield?
Good stuff. I've actually seen some commentary about this, so I do want to address it. I've always been forgetting to address it. And look, I just got to be clear. Obviously people know I love Starfield, right? People know I clamor for this game. People know I'm the first to talk about what the engagement did on console, and obviously when they won NPD, I thought that was a victory for the studio. Looking at it, currently right now, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It is still in the top 10 of most gameplay.
And Skyrim is, I just looked for you, 30, number 30.
Exactly. So on console, it is doing phenomenal, right? And I want to be clear. And I'm not saying it's not doing well. It's sold well on PC. It's doing well on PC as far as the initial out the gate. But we got to be honest about these Steam mixed reviews as well as player count dropping kind of stuff. And this is, again, I'm guessing this is what I attribute to. The PC community, they don't play when it comes to these ports, right? And in my opinion, this is just Cog guessing, the tactical mistake here was we know that AMD had the deal in place with their proprietary software to promote this game. And the rhetoric at the time was, yo, you want to play the best version of it? Get yourself a high-end PC. Get that, that AMD, that technology. The technology that we use, as far as the FSR, FSR3, that kind of upscaling technology. Now, the problem is the PC community is very specific to the point where the PC community will buy the Steam version of a game sometimes over the fact that it may be in PC Game Pass, because that's how much Steam is beloved. The PC community, if Epic has the game, they may wait for the Epic Game Store for the exclusivity end, and then they get, you see what I'm saying? That's how much the UI, the interface of Steam is beloved because it's well featured. Now you couple that with proprietary upscaling, which is the DLSS. A lot of people, shout out to Digital Foundry, feel DLSS is the superior upscaling technology, right? NVIDIA is the superior graphics card. I'm just telling you how PC circles talk amongst themselves. So it's a very emotional, because I should say emotional. Some people from a technical standpoint, it is by far superior. This is where I want to play it. And until I play it there, they're going to get this smoke. And then we got to be real about the performance on PC. Right? So if you have these issues, they're going to get rightfully attacked. And I think that's what's going on here. I think it has, I'm going to be brutally honest, if I had to guess, this had more to do with the performance and the technical aspects of the game than, the game itself is the most terriblest thing ever. People on PC want a good, functioning, working port. To the point, remember, Todd was asked this question directly. Yo, when you going to optimize it good for PC? They said this to you on launch. So the PC community is not playing with you. That's what's going on here. But I don't look at this as this colossal failure for Starfield as a whole because Steam is just one platform, right? That's what I'm trying to say. Like, it's a big part of what they did, but it's it's also on console. So when people use this commentary like it is a failure because of Steam numbers, I reject that because it launched on Xbox as well. And that's what also was a big part of success, as well as the Steam and the PC Game Pass numbers. So I look at the whole of where things are. So that's where I'm at. I don't want to discredit it. I don't want to minimize it. I just wanted to give my perspective as why I think things are the way they are on Steam.
Yeah, I think it would be disingenuous to disclude Xbox most played games. I wish we had more numbers because that's why I think the Steam player count makes headlines. It's why we lean into the stats so much here on the show, because we can actually see the numbers. One bit of analysis I did out of curiosity, because I'm going to do a video on this, is I was looking at when Starfield came out, what was the drop off in player count for Skyrim Special Edition on Steam to see if, like, is it leeching monthly players? And in September of 2023, the month that Starfield had come out, there was a 4,000 player drop to an average of 17,000 players that whole month, with a peak of 28,000. And then October, it went up to 19,000 as the average player count with a peak of 32,000. So, there wasn't a major taking away from Skyrim here. And that's why I started off with the question is this more of a testament to Skyrim's magnificence or Starfield's failure? Now, right now I'm looking Skyrim Special Edition on Steam, 23,098 players 44 minutes ago. Starfield, 22,106 players 44 minutes ago. So it's being eclipsed, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's a mix. I do think Skyrim is just that game. And I don't I'm sorry, people are going to think I'm just defending Starfield. I don't co-sign this sudden, Skyrim's getting tons of play. Skyrim has always had tons of players.
Always been that way.
I think this is the product of two things, though. Number one, this is not excuse making. It's a more competitive, busy, fun year than it's ever been. No game is really having extreme legs. Even Bethesda has shown that they are not immune to that. That's not to wipe away the criticism I'm going to give it, but Bethesda is not immune to this. And the fact that they're maintaining what I would imagine if you combine Xbox and Steam, at least a 50,000 plus player count consistently, is still really good this many months after launch for a game that's apparently a complete failure, according to much of the internet. They are pulling in a ton of people, and a lot of people do really like the game. But that gets me into part two. It is an extremely divisive game. The fact that it's mixed on Steam, I will push back on you gently. I don't think it's really a message sent. I think a lot of people are very displeased with Starfield. I will also say I think it's a bit harsh of a rating. I don't think Starfield, I've gone on record since the month the game came out, don't think it's, even our review that dropped for the podcast, I said, I don't think I love Starfield yet. And that was a long time into my playthrough.
Been consistent. Yeah.
So I've been consistent, but Starfield is a game that I don't think it's their best, but I would not say it's their worst. And I'm not rooting for other games to get destroyed, but I am very surprised that this many people are this disgusted by the game. And I've seen what I've read, because then I did comment surfing, Reddit surfing, like,
what was the comments? People What's the streets? What they say?
I see a lot of people saying they overpromised. And I went back and I watched the developer direct, and I'm like, I'm not trying to defend them. I'm just trying to be fair. I'm like, I did a whole video called Did Bethesda Lie About Starfield? And I covered every quote that was there, every major quote that was there. And I was like, they gave us exactly what they told us we were going to get. I think the biggest sneak around was that couple weeks from launch, they slid in there that Starfield explores very differently. It was in a GQ article.
Yeah.
They're like, Starfield explores very differently, which has been the major critique across anyone who loves it, dislikes it.
And,
it's been like that kind of, why is it so scattered?
Right.
And I feel like that needed to be broadcast more, because that is the part that people are sticking to the most in the terms of criticism. And I think it's totally fair. That's my biggest criticism of the game. I was prepared for it though when playing Starfield because I knew about that. But that's one GQ preview. Granted, the video I put out, I did like 200,000 views. So only like a small subset of people really knew about it. Bethesda needed to be loud about that, in my opinion. But everything else was what we got. 1,000+ planets, starship crafting, outpost crafting, focus on questing, focus on dialogue, gunplay is exactly how it looked in the secret powers are there. I think it was exactly what it was marketed to us as, which I don't say that to defend it, but to say, to my ultimate point, it's a divisive game.
Mm-hmm.
We got what we expected from many people. They expected more, like the spaceship travel, to fly to other planets, to get on the ground and walk to other locations. Like that was a big part of it. They expected more. And some people thought they tried to do too much. And I think both of those assessments are fair. I really do. And even though I love Starfield and I'm doing my rankings right now, and I'm waiting for like Star Ocean to shake out. I don't know if this is Starfield. Starfield's in my top 10 for sure. Mm-hmm. I put over 100 hours into the game and I thoroughly enjoyed the main quest, some of the factions that were there. I enjoyed the character work a lot. Like it does a lot right than wrong for me, but for many it's the opposite. And I think it's a very thin line there of crossing right and wrong. And so that's why it's so split down the middle. At the same time, it's interesting to see that a game that for Bethesda Game Studio standards is so polished being this divisive is crazy.
Interesting.
It really is, because that was like their biggest critique for a while. I made a big video essay on this that'll go out when I'm on my holiday break. I don't want to spoil too much of it, but Bethesda's reception to what is special about their games since Skyrim, I don't think they've understood properly what that is. And Starfield felt like a direct answer to that, as in like, we like loot in Bethesda Game Studios games. They're like, okay, here's legendary weapons and armor in Fallout 4. It's like, no. We liked how in Skyrim you had the Daedric quest and they were tied to a dungeon, or you would get the dragon priest mask, right? Like you get a thing that was tied to a quest or a piece of lore, and it had a unique effect and there was meaning and it was cosmetically different. And so they see that feedback in Skyrim, like, okay, give them more. So they do legendaries, and it's like, no, now you're just like Borderlands at this point. Like, this is just randomized loot. This isn't special.
Right.
And
I get you.
There's just, I cover in this video, there's so many moments like that where the players have conveyed something they really like. Oh, we love how the Thieves Guild did procedural content generation, where to restore the honor of the Thieves Guild, you go out to a bunch of random houses and people and steal from them, rewrite their ledgers and so on and so forth. And then there's an end goal, right? And you restore the honor of the Thieves Guild, and that procedural content cuts off there. So they hear that, and again, sticking with my example of Fallout 4, they go, oh, you like procedural? Okay, Preston Garvey, let's just make this content endless. You can play Fallout 4 forever, because Skyrim's player count was so substantial that Bethesda fell into a situation that almost hurt them, where people were living in Skyrim, modding it for years. And the pressure to make a game now, and I'm not saying this to make people feel bad for them, but just an honest assessment, now the pressure is they don't just make games, they make worlds to live in. And so the design goals are very different. And again, I highlight all of this in this video on what Todd says in a pre-Skyrim era versus a post-Skyrim era, and the vernacular and how Bethesda views their games, what they think their fans like, and how they describe them is very different from what was consistent before Skyrim. And so I think that's what it comes down to, is it's almost like two people not seeing eye to eye.
Okay.
And I think that's what Starfield represents. It's like, we said go back, like, to Oblivion. You went back to Daggerfall. And that's a huge leap. Because I would say that Starfield is more like Daggerfall than Oblivion, although many of Oblivion's mechanics are, or rather, Starfield is reminiscent of many of Oblivion's gameplay mechanics, specifically in dialogue and persuasion, that type of stuff. But yeah, I get it. I get it. As much as I love Starfield, I get why it would be mixed for some. I do think, again, I will stand on my square on one thing. I think it's a little harsh. I don't think the game is this offensively bad, but I do think part of it plays into the factor that, like, people are kind of tired of this, and the forgiveness era of Bethesda has been over. I just look at, as someone who's been in the thick of the community, I look at Fallout 4's reception. I look at 76's reception. And then I look at the game Starfield is, even with its clear flaws that I have been critical of.
Right.
And I feel like it's an answer to so much of that. And yet people are still pissed. And that's not to say that it excuses the problems of the games. It's more so just to emphasize, like, if you're Bethesda Game Studios, and I've covered in this video, you have this track record of not getting it right in the terms of what you think your fans want. And now I think you deliver pretty close to what people wanted. And there's so many missing components to that, particularly the exploration. It's like, I'm afraid of Elder Scrolls 6 now, because I'm like, what is the takeaway this time? It's like, fuck, we went all old school. We went to Bethesda Game Studios traditional, and we still got destroyed. and it's, again, I go back to what I said, because I know people are going to try to Starfield, just for some reason, you just can't have this very
nuanced
concise conversation. I think I've been fair on every side of the fence. People will still find something to bitch about.
Of course.
But look, I'm not trying to make excuses for them. It's just, I don't know what they take away from this. I don't, because it's not because I think it's great. It's just that they've made something that was directly in response in many ways to what people thought was missing. Oh, voice protagonist. You didn't like that in Fallout 4. I don't like that they tried it in Starfield, but they went with the right choice.
Right.
Like, good, great. Skill checks. It's really the execution. Skill checks were not utilized enough. They went into the persuasion game. Starship travel and on-land travel was not utilized enough. They leaned too much into procedural generation. Like, it's, and this goes back to what I said, the way they receive, like, what fans like about their games versus what we actually do. It's just, they're not seeing eye to eye right now. So I get it. And it's a shame that it's reviewed so low on Steam in particular, because I think there's a game absolutely worth playing there, but I think you see that and you're like, oh God, that must have been a train wreck. So, I've gone on enough on that particular subject. Is there anything you'd like to add on before we get into other parts of the conversation?
Yeah, I think that, to me, this is how I look at it. I'm just going to be brutally honest. Like, yes, am I biased towards sci-fi? Yes. Am I biased towards the Bethesda style RPG, Western RPG? Absolutely. You know what I'm saying? I grew up on these games. But this is my assessment and just how I see why reviews are the way they are. Starfield, Will Die on the Hill is a great game. I love the game. I think this is a good game. I don't think this is a bad game. I don't think this is a game that is worthy of that type of critical reception. However, where I feel things went left, and I'm with you here, is that somehow along the way, as we got closer to release, the rhetoric came out that this is the game of the generation. This has to be the game of the generation to save Xbox, especially when the exclusivity was confirmed without a shadow of a doubt. So when that happened, right, then you put on the past pressure of Fallout 76. Then you put on the recency bias pressure of Redfall. And now the entire studio is looked at, you are in danger. You are in question. We shouldn't be able to trust you anymore because of your latest outings, right? Then you tie that, I'm going to be brutally honest, to Microsoft. And now it's like, oh, both of you need to deliver something great. And it became, this needs to not only be great, but save the entire Xbox ecosystem. This is something ZeniMax has never said. This is something Bethesda never said. And even Phil himself has said, no one game is going to, change and make people buy Xbox or whatever. Now, I'll push back. We do want great games. But I will say that, to me, is what's happened here. Somehow the discussion became, you have to be the greatest game ever made. And I think that's just completely unfair. And I'm just going to be honest. I do think there is a bias there because this is nothing ever ZeniMax said. Todd never said any of this. People put this undue pressure. And I saw headlines coming out saying this. And I'm like, who was saying that this game had to be the game of the generation and it has to single-handedly save it and be a 10 out of 10? Otherwise, Microsoft and ZeniMax are doomed. That was the energy. And I won't die on that score, but I know if you want to push back, please.
No, I want to hold ourselves accountable and see what you think about it. Because I know I've definitely at least gone on record of saying this is definitely Xbox's most important game of the generation. And so maybe that meant game of the generation to some.
Right. I get what you're saying.
What I meant was like, this game needs to be financially and honestly, optically, it needed to be a pretty big slam dunk. And I would say, and one aspect it absolutely was, but and it was the game Xbox wanted and needed. But I don't know if optically it was the one that instilled a lot of confidence. So I just wanted to make sure I include that as part of our conversation, because I know, at least I don't know if you've said it, but I definitely said not like it has to be game of the generation. But I know for a fact I've said that it needs to be, or it is the most important game in Xbox's current generation.
It's very important. I think where I hold myself accountable, where my frustration lies, is I don't like developer disrespect, especially with developers that have a good track record. So my thing is, I am not going to hold Todd and team to 76's, failure, you know what I'm saying, per se, as if they have this history of making Fallout 76 style games for the length, as if Morrowind, Oblivion, Skyrim does not exist. Fallout does not exist. Like, that's what was aggravating me, because I just know the history of the studio, and I'm like, yo, bro, they've made great games. We got to give them that respect to see this thing out, because I knew at the very minimum it's going to be good. I will stand on that square. I will definitely say COG is responsible. He's guilty as charged for saying that, because I felt the talent amassed there was there. And to my credit, I feel it is a good game. Now, whether or not it beats that great level and surpasses Skyrim Mount Rushmore level, again, that is fairly to be debated. And anyone that says, yo, bro, this ain't Skyrim, this ain't Oblivion, absolutely, by all means. But I just struggle where this is a terrible game and that this is awful. And again, maybe it's subjective, maybe it's your experience. That's just, I'm not aligning with that. I'm sorry. It's not, I have so many hours.
I think even in the product of a great year like 2023, I do think Starfield is one of the better games that we got. So I agree in that sense of the pushback that I don't see why. I shouldn't say I don't see why, because I did just explain all of that. To make it out to be absolutely putrid versus like a game that's like it's good, not great.
Yeah, exactly.
Like there's a drop off in the conversation of quality.
That's it. There's a difference between an 82, 83 Metacritic and say, yo, this is still a good game, man. This is a great game, as opposed to 90. As opposed to this is 60
this is Walking Dead Destinies.
This is Walking Dead. This is Skull Island. What would they do? Like, I see that rhetoric running around. I'm like, and again, you have to look at some of the sources and some people with agendas on how they feel about. I'm just going to be real. We're going to talk bias. We're going to talk about it, right? Some people did not want this game to succeed because they have a certain feeling towards certain platforms. All I'm saying is be fair. I've never said, as a result, if you don't feel this is Skyrim level, if you don't feel it's a 90, and if you also say, hey, COG, the year that it came out, bro, come on, this is a tough year. Absolutely. This year is stacked. So I totally get that. But I just don't, for me, again, opinion this is subjective, but I personally don't feel this is one of the worst games ever made. Like, I'm not doing that. I can't with a straight face do that. And to me, someone who says that, I have to look at you a little questionable. That's just me. That's where I stand on it.
Yeah. Again, I think if you were to tell me Fallout or Elder Scrolls are better, I'd agree with you hand over fist. Worst game of the year or one of the worst games of the year? No. Disappointing? One of the most disappointing for some? Sure.
For some,
sure.
Yeah.
But worst? I don't know. Yeah. Interesting to see how things have played out, though. And I think more than anything, I hope this does, to keep it constructive, continue to light a fire under their ass. And I hope that the expansion is a real answer, kind of like a Far Harbor answer. Fallout 4, it's almost an identical launch. Comes out, major financial success, initial impressions, like, love this. I'm actually really enjoying it. Time goes on, the conversation, the discourse falls off a cliff. It's awful. It's terrible. Bethesda's got to do something. It gets really sour really quick, to the point where, like, I will be honest with you, COG, I kind of balked on putting this in our write-ups, just because the conversation, like, you can't get a good conversation on Starfield. I've like, again, I had to make my peace with when we make a conversation about Starfield, it's, we're defending it. Yep. It can do no wrong. We love it to death. We're throating Bethesda, like, et cetera, et cetera. Like, the list goes on how we just cannot have this objective conversation about the game. And it's never fun to talk about this game, which is why I think some of the coverage dropped off. No one wants to talk about Starfield because no one wants to have, I think, a really genuine, enjoyable conversation about it. It's always like so instantly extreme. Like that uncle who's like 0 to 100, like immediately pops off. Facts. That type of shit. Where I was getting at with all of this is I hope they have a Far Harbor level response. Fallout 4 was in a similar position.
Yeah.
They released Far Harbor though, and it was choice driven, and it was really atmospheric and tighter and more meaningful. People were like, that's what we wanted. And so I hope that the Shattered Space expansion, which we're going to assume is coming out sometime next year, is going to be that like focus on a star system, build out a bunch of planets specifically, have more exploration, like a direct, like, okay, we hear you. Here's what we're doing. If they go more in the direction of procedural generation, that will sting. I really hope that they go and respond to the main critiques of the game, and that's the takeaway from all of this. Especially because maybe some of the criticism snuck up on them, and let's say it's coming out like fall next year. Do you have enough time to make that kind of response? Because I said this on an older episode. I remember Bethesda reached out and they were like collecting information from content creators in the sense of like, what did you like? If you had a fix or a critique of the game, like, which I've never had a game developer do before. So this is like a one-time thing. They were like, what would you make better in Starfield? I was like, absolutely the exploration. I was like 100%. I was like, you guys have way too many repeating procedural locations. I said, you don't have enough wandering. I was like, I put in bold, I was like, this needs to be a focus. Absolutely. Given that Starfield is going to be supported for a number of years, though, we'll eventually get it. I just hope it's sooner rather than later, and it can enjoy maybe a little bit of a Phantom Liberty moment at this rate here. They have 250 people working on Starfield, so we'll see if that's enough to put out something of substance here. But Bethesda Game Studio is still a pretty small team, all things considered.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know if we mentioned the DLSS support, the HDR support, the PC from the latest update kind of stuff to really try to help the PC community with all the issues that they've been having. I think
should have been there at launch.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That's the other thing. I think the rate of which these updates are coming out at and what's included in them is definitely like, even I feel a little sour towards them. I'm like, really? Like, you added eating food in the overworld? Like, I know that was on the list of things you said you're going to add, but like that's your big target here, guys. Like I want to hear about survival mode. I know we're only a couple months removed, but I want to hear like an update like, hey, Starfield, as you parade around endlessly, is a tremendous success. Okay, so commit to us like survival mode, DLC, ship expansions, custom mechs. Like, what are we doing? Like, what is the long-term view? We've heard just that you want to support and that you got the team supporting. What does that really look like? We need a roadmap. Hopefully we get that. I guess at this rate, maybe we'll talk about the Game Awards in a sec, or maybe at the top of the year. But any more thoughts on this, sir?
No, well discussion. I like what you said. I like, especially towards the end, and that's what I want to. I also want that Far Harbor stuff. And for a guy that loves the game and lives in this world, I just can't. I'm curious to see like how they go about their expansion. How does it add on? You know what I'm saying? I'm very excited and curious to see how they approach it. But I agree, that would be dope. Tighter story, maybe focus in a specific galaxy. Kind of, Outer Worlds, that joint. That'll be good. Yeah.
All right, next up we got here for number 2. Jez Corden suggests that Xbox will have something to show at the Game Awards. Quote, well, yes, I pretty much know that Xbox is there at the Game Awards. I'm not telling you if it's going to be good or not. Xbox is going to be at the show, but hey, maybe it's with Candy Crush. Maybe it's with Candy Crush Cross Gears crossover coming, end quote. Matt Jimenez writes in, hey, Dukes, with all the controversy talk surrounding the Video Game Awards, I feel like we are forgetting the exciting parts of the show, the world premieres. What world premieres do you think we might see? Do we finally get Gears 6 from the Coalition? Or maybe something far from left field that we weren't expecting, like the Sega big budget project? Look forward to hearing your thoughts and predictions. P.S. Happy Thanksgiving. This is interesting to me because I was just told by people like, you're going to want to tune in, Matt. I don't know what that means because I've got that before. Like before the PlayStation showcase that at KOTOR Remake, I like received a number of emails and similar messages like, you're going to want to tune in. So I don't know. I genuinely don't know what that means. No one told me anything. So I don't know if that pertains to Xbox or PlayStation or Nintendo, because there's a lot of things that I love that I would want to see. I don't know. But it seems like there is something coming. I don't know what it is either. It sounds like Jez does, so maybe I should message him. But Cog, have you had any picks here? Because like, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what this could really be here, other than like re-reveals of like, do we finally get like a release date for one of the already announced games from Xbox, like a Hellblade 2 and Avowed? Do you save that for the developer direct? Like, what's here that like, if we are anticipating a developer direct happens around the top of the year, like, what do they save for that versus what's here on the quote biggest stage in gaming, end quote?
I feel you got to give, if you're going to show something, because obviously the rumblings are we're hearing that Xbox will have some sort of presence, something to show, right? So if that's the case, I feel you got to show something new. You got to show something new. You got to show something we don't know about, because I'm going to surprise people. I don't want to see Hellblade again on here. I don't. I'm not that I'm done with you. I love you, Ninja Theory. I love you.
You need a tight window when it shows up next. Yeah.
We don't really see you. You want to come out there and show facial expressions, and we show you with the console. We show you with the great scene, a storming the beach, fighting the big troll thing. Okay. We don't want to see you until you ready to come out, have a release date, and have combat shown. I am there with you. You're in my mini doghouse until we see you proper. That's where I'm at. Yeah. So now show me something else that we didn't know about if you're going to be there. I'm coming in, I hate to say this, but I'm coming in with a lower expectation. Like, I'm not expecting to see nothing crazy, but hey, prove me wrong. I would love them to make a statement and say, hey, this is it. But I'm also of the firm belief, and I think Attic said this numerous, I like what they're doing with Developer Direct. I like that they are building up their own brand and giving you good reason. We had the amazing one at the top of the year, and Hi-Fi Rush was a result of that, right? We like, wow, this is really strong. This is really cool. Utilize your showcase, utilize Jeff for something maybe new that we didn't know about, and then leave it at that. So I'm coming in very low. I'm not going to get crazy. I love Jez. I got too hyped for the Blizzard one and nothing really happened. You know what I'm saying? Jez, you the homie. I'm just playing with you. Your track record is crazy. You know what I'm saying?
No, but I hear where you're coming from.
I don't want to get too bonkers yet. That's where I'm at with it. So we'll see. I hope it is something cool. I will say this to Matt Jimenez. Gear 6 actually would fit in a way. In a way, just hey, we're working on it. This is the initial, concept art or mini gameplay trailer thing of where, the story direction is headed with Kate kind of thing. Maybe that, a coalition, if they're ready, I'm saying, that kind of thing. Now, I think that would be acceptable in a way, because we do need to know what's going on. And then, you show something. I will say this, UE5 shows very well. It always has a nice little sheen to it when they show something. So we'll see. That's where I'm at. So I don't think that's out of pocket.
Do you think with Halo Infinite rolling, do you think this is nothing?
No, They don't like you there over there. They don't like you over there. You
don't get voted for best ongoing game when you show up with the trailer.
It's clear they ain't even paying attention to the good things that you're doing right now. You still have that stench on you right now. Sorry. I'm talking about from a public perspective, not from the people who play on the platform. No, Halo Infinite is popping right now. Yeah. Halo 3, man, all that stuff is going, but the world still thinks of you in a way. So I told you, you don't come back outside until you got Battle Royale and substantial content. Yes. If you got that, I will say
that's
that.
What I meant. Like if they got,
okay, my bad.
You think it's time for a big announcement? The new season just dropped. Do you think it's time to kind of make that announcement? If you will, taking king moment.
Okay, if Pierre got something cooking, yeah, by all means. I personally, if you put a gun in my head, I want to see something new. I want to see something new from you that we don't know about, and we go, oh, that was Project Shaolin, or that, you know what I'm saying? Like that, I want to see that energy. So you go, oh, the future's bright. They got this other thing cooking. Like, I don't want to know about something I already knew about. That's just where I'm at with it.
Yeah, no update. Yeah, I say if you have an update on an already existing game, you probably want to save that for like a developer direct, right? That's like your own platform kind of move.
Put that on your mixtape,
especially because I think the things that are of note, like an Avowed, right, which they said was in an alpha state or pre-alpha state, something like that when we saw it, and like what would have moved so far forward in 5 months that it's like worth showing again with putting a date on it. That wouldn't make sense. Hellblade is further along, so I feel like that would be a potential showing. But again, maybe you save that to end your developer direct. That's the thing, is I feel like they got to be lining up a direct. So if you are, what do you put in there that wouldn't be a value in there, or in the Game Awards that wouldn't be a value in your own direct? And I think you're onto something with like Project Shaolin. I wonder, Fallout of any kind? By that I mean like the remasters that were leaked, the Oblivion remaster that was leaked. This could be a spot to announce that, although the timing would be kind of weird. I feel like you got to start that in the new year. Like the timing feels like it would be way too close by for Starfield. Although who knows? Maybe they do that. I don't know. It's kind of like a shot in the dark here, which is a good thing, I guess, right? Because then if it's really a big deal, we have a chance to be surprised. Outer Worlds 2, maybe?
You know what's funny you say that? I'm going to say this. I don't know if I said it on Duke yet. For some reason, I feel Outer Worlds 2 might be ahead of Avowed. I was
thinking the same thing. I was like, yeah, you know what? Like if Avowed was like once supposed to be multiplayer and they re-strategized, but Avowed was on this straight course, Outer Worlds 2, yeah, you may have pulled ahead. That's a good point.
I'm just getting that vibe because remember, we heard Farquhar saying we had to go back to the core of what we do, right? Then let's be honest, even though I liked I'm gonna be objective here, even though I liked the trailer for Avowed, it did get some pushback. Some people were like, yo, I don't feel it's graphically looking good or whatever. And then they made it their business to be like, what, alpha or whatever, right? And say this is where it's at.
Yeah. I'll double check if it was alpha or pre-alpha because it's a pretty big gap there.
Right. So my thing is, if that's the case, and we do know for a fact,
it was pre-alpha,
right? And we do know for a fact they had a vision change for Avowed. Remember, they went away from. Remember, I think co-op was rumored to be part of it at one point. So that to me, I mean, you had some structural changes to where you at. That may have pushed you back, right? And then Matt Booty has come out and said Hellblade. He ain't say Avowed on that. What is it at the top of the list? What he said, Towerborn.
He said Towerborn, Aura, and then he said Hellblade later.
And Hellblade later, right? Yeah. In the mix of that conversation, I ain't hear Avowed. Again, not saying it's not happening.
No, that's a good point, though.
So what I'm leaning with is maybe, just maybe, Outer Worlds is the head, and maybe you could get a little something of that because that team been working. Like we had them on ILP. That development was going already after Eridanos and all that stuff came out. So who knows if they're ahead of schedule. And Obsidian, in a way, is Microsoft's Insomniac as far as output. Like, they get it popping. So, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised with that. I'd take me some out. Let's go. What?
Fable?
Ooh, I would love that. I would love that. You want to show me some gameplay of Fable? You want to show me some combat of Fable? And I got a prediction on that. I think that one.
They were flexing after that. So I just think about like, oh, okay, let's go again. And let's show them like this thing, like people fighting, like really like an extensive look at the combat.
They seem super proud of that. Again, Matt Booty popping off. He's like, hey, I wanted you guys to show this so much earlier. They told him chill. And then we saw where people like, yo, it can't be that real. That can't be. No, that's the game, fam. Like thank you for thinking that we made this up and this is something else. But Fable might be the one. You know what I'm saying? That I've actually my excitement for Fable is really because I'm being hard on it. Ninja Theory, if anyone, I'm being hard on you purposely. I know you're gonna be good, but I'm being hard on you purposely. Fable right now is a leading my anticipation as far as the graphical fidelity, # just one energy, not fully just one because it's not a new IP, but energy. So that's where I'm at.
Well, there's a lot of options. Marcus Phoenix Collection being another one. Would love to finally see Gears get that Master Chief Collection treatment. Mm-hmm. Who knows, man? All up in the air right now, but we won't have to wait long to find out. And knowing the industry, it'll probably leak before it happens.
Yes.
Microsoft cannot keep a secret, so I'm sure we'll know before it even happens. Soon. All right. That's all the news. It's time for our Game Pass pick of the week. I am up, and I have made my selection, Persona 5 Tactica.
Oh, I'm curious.
So, played this the night it came out for 3 hours, and I really am enjoying this. I feel like you would also like this a lot, Cog. It definitely speaks to your taste in gaming quite a bit. I will say the biggest drawback, if I were to call one out,
let's go.
story just kind of there.
Canon, non-canon?
Believe technically canon, but it's one of those things where I think it takes place like I think between the 7th and 8th palaces or something in like the base Persona 5 or something like that. I've honestly just over the head because what's happening with Persona 5 and the only critique I really have of the series as a whole is like we're stuffing one too many adventures like this happened here during this point in the story. It's like Star Wars where they're like this little skirmish and this whole set of characters were fighting it out here. I'm like, how many fucking people existed between episode 3 and 4 that you didn't tell me about? And I get it. You're making things up, but like that's where Persona 5 has kind of found itself.
I got you.
And so Tactica falls in that bin, unfortunately. Not a bad story. Presented well, cutscenes are good. Voice acting naturally is great given the talent on board. But the tactical gameplay is really what has its hooks in me. Very much like I wouldn't say XCOM, but I'd say Mario and Rabbids meets Persona.
Yo, Attic said the same.
Oh, did he really?
Like I talked to him 2 days, and he's playing it, and I hate that because you guys are like literally on the same wavelength, and he's like, because he knows I'm playing God, he's like, oh, what are you getting on? What's up? This is your game. I'm like, I know, but I got to fit this guy that I got to. So he was telling me, so I was like, what do you compare it to? Is it XCOM? He's like, actually, it's more Rabbids. But I said, but wait a minute. You in the middle with Rabbids. He's not a Rabbit hater, but he's in the middle. He's like, no. This is good. This is good. I like it a lot. But continue. Yeah, he did say Rabbids.
That's so funny. Okay, so this seems to be, maybe that was like the touchstone for them because like when you start your turn, you have like this radius you can move around in, like in Mario and Rabbids, and you can only go so far, at least in Sparks of Hope. And in Kingdom Battle, it was like XCOM in the way you'd pick where you were taking cover. But it functions the same way. Like when you take cover, there's half cover, part cover, full cover. You have skills that you can use like AHA, and it covers a bunch of ground. You can take out multiple enemies. The presentation and sound design, as you'd expect in a Persona game, is fantastic. Yeah, it's a really good time. I haven't gotten into like an extremely tough battle yet, but there's a lot of mechanics tied to it. The music is, as you'd expect, fantastic. Like when you get to LeBlanc, you're hearing this new remixed Beneath the Mask track. Ooh, man, so good. This new character, Arena, I think her name is. I can't believe I'm blanking on it. I apologize, but I guess that speaks to the story. Love the voice actress they picked for her. Fair new voice. I was actually looking because I'm always, when I hear a voice, I'm like, that doesn't sound familiar, which I like. So I look up who it is, and this is like her first big performance in a game. Like she's been very minor roles before this. Leona something, apologies, but has done a really good job so far. So I wanted to call that out. But yeah, Persona 5 Tactica is great and definitely worth the download. I am not totally in love with the art style. I don't really like the chibi look, but I don't hate it either. So, you know, it's kind of like in the middle. But yeah, Persona 5 Tactica, Game Pass pick of the week, definitely worth the download. I was playing it on PC Game Pass, which I think is worth calling out too. And that was running just fine for me. So
nice.
Shout out to P5 Tactica. Very good game so far. And I will keep everyone updated as I chip along at that. Like that's definitely a back burner game.
Yeah.
Because as you notice, again, Yakuza is missing. I said last week, I'm just done making promises to myself because what's happening is we're in the final push for Retro Rebound and my Mr. Matty channel. And I'm like, I have to like last night, I will tease one of my projects because I don't think anyone will ever get what's connected to it. But like I've played, looking at the stack here, Division 1, by the way.
Wow, throwback.
It went into the Dark Zone in 2023, not on my bingo card. And I played Mafia 2.
Oh, wow.
We're working towards something I'm very excited about. Really fun video. But, you know, like it's taking me away. Like I'm playing Dragon's Dogma now for a video for the Dragon's Dogma 2 thing. So it's like, that's what keeps happening is like I have these hours to game. I'm just allocating them differently. So I still believe I can do all of the like Yakuza games during my holiday break. Like I feel like I can really, I'm going to have over 3 weeks off. So I'm being a no life. It's going to be gym, friends and family, and Yakuza. Like that is my plan through and through. Unless it gets like, if I start to feel Cold Steel 4 levels of bad where like I'm not enjoying my break, I will stop and like pace myself or do something different. I'm not doing what I did to myself last holiday again. Because I started off with Crisis Core. I was like, man, it's lit. And I went into Cold Steel 4. I'm like, this is awful. I don't want to do this again. So
I feel that. I love that. I'm gonna say I can't do it if I'm not enjoying. I don't care what's going on. Y'all gonna give me the storyboard.
See, that's why it's good you're not a reviewer. You get to chart your own course. I mostly do in like pockets of my life like this. So I always got to maximize my holiday time.
I feel you.
Well, actually, that kind of gets us perfectly into our final question of the episode, and we'll get on out of here. Paul S. writes in, "Hey, Dukes, it's getting into the holiday season now, and I am fortunate enough to be able to take some time off, and I'm going to focus on gaming deep dives. My plan is to get into Baldur's Gate 3 and wrap up Persona 4 and 5 Royal before I play 3 Reload. I'm also setting some reading goals as well to break things up. I know you've talked a bit about your holiday gaming plans, but how do you go about deciding how to decide your time off or how to spend your time off? Do you make a plan or just go for it day by day? Thanks for all the amazing content. Matty, Retro Rebound has quickly become one of my favorite channels. Thank you, Paul. Appreciate you. All right, Cog.
Yo.
What is the holiday plan from movies to TV to books, manga, anime, whatever you end up consuming, games? What's the plan? Or do you just go day by day?
No, I actually had a plan coming in. I've been so far so good. You know, I knew when Like a Dragon Gaiden came out, I had to tackle that. That was the one that I really wanted to knock out to get me really prepared for Infinite Wealth. Because to me, here's my plan. My dread is January. January, my life ends. You know, again, y'all know how big a Tekken fan I am. Tekken 8 nothing has me more excited. And again, how much an Infinite Wealth fan I am. Nothing else has me so excited. It's funny, those two games are actually nominated on the Game Awards for most anticipated, which I was surprised that they made. I was like, wow, these are card games. I'm shocked they made the list, you know, kind of thing. So those two. So how it left me is, okay, how do I manage December? And now with your Game Pass pick of the week, I was like, man, Persona 5 Tactica, I had a really good experience. I really enjoyed that. So I'm probably going to sneak that in. And then it comes down to back to Phantom Liberty, or, you know, do I obviously, you know, I know I'm still a Destiny fan. There is a Destiny season, so I'll be able to sneak that in because that's low lift. It's not an expansion. It's just the start of a season, so I can sneak that in. Season of the Wish, which I do like lore wise, what they are doing. The thing that sucks about everything that's terrible with Bungie and Destiny right now is this last season was actually good, Season of the Witch, but with all this nonsense that's going on with them. So I got that. So it's probably going to be Persona. Destiny I can sneak in between. The question is, do I commit to Phantom Liberty, or do I attack some backlog games that people are mad at me? Like, yo, Cog, you got to do Arkham. Yo, Cog, you got to do. There's like one more. Cog's like, yo, what's up with Dead Space? Like, it's coupled in there that they like, yo, where you at? So that's where I got to decide. Yeah. What'd you say?
No, I was just saying so many, right? It's like so this window here in December till the second week, I'd say, of January.
And this week, I have to get on Diablo. Diablo gang is like, bro, it's lit. And there's season Lilith Blessings week with triple XP.
Now's the time to like get the grind on.
They be like, yo, bro, we was waiting for you. Where you at? Like, so my Diablo fans, because everyone's happy I'm not playing Destiny. So all the live service competitors are like, yeah, now's the time to cheat.
Yeah, you're free man now.
Yeah, you free. You got time to do. And I ain't gonna front. I do want to play Diablo a bit. So, but the live services are kind of quick, easy for me to get in and get out. And Halo 3 is kind of good, bro. It's a lot. It's a lot right now. I mean, Halo Infinite is good right now. It is a lot going on. But what about you? How are you? Because you got so many things pulling at you, and then you got the channel and the retro stuff.
Yeah.
We got content that we got to do. We got a lot of content that we got.
It's definitely a lot. It's definitely piling on. So I know my gaming time will be fragmented. So, and a lot of it's spent making content. I'm planning on really getting all that produced these next couple of weeks. And then, you know, myself and a couple other editors will, chip away at what's there, but it's going to require a lot of recording, both on camera and gameplay wise. Yeah. So once I get that window, like I'm looking at right now I'm looking at two things, I should say. Beyond the Retro Rebound demands, it's like, okay, what do I need to play for Mr. Matty? He's like, I need to finish Baldur's Gate 3. I need to make sure that's like...
That was it.
Yeah.
I forgot. Yeah, that was what I was planning to play.
Yeah.
I forgot about that too.
Yeah, and that's what I noticed we're having a lot of games this year because every time I sit down to game, I know what I'm going to play. this is the first time this chunk of the year I've sat down. I'm like, what do I need to play right now? There's almost too much to play, and I don't like that feeling of sitting down, and not like the fun, like I'm scrolling through Game Pass, like ooh. It's more like I sit down and I'm like, man, I know I got like this playthrough in progress. I know I got that playthrough in progress. Like, what was I doing? Like, I don't like that. I got to sit there and think for a minute or two. That's too many games, which just, I want them all, spread them out. So once I get that window, like I know I need to finish Baldur's Gate 3 leading into the holiday. That's a big goal of mine. I'm going to do it. I don't think I really have any other cleanup work off the top of my head outside of Star Ocean, which is, that's easy. Switch game, on the go, wherever I want. Great. Like that, I'm well equipped to beat both of those. It's kind of like my lead up to the year-end goal. Once I get there, Yakuza is the plan. I do have to see, like, of course, how I feel going through them all. Because I know you use the same settings and same characters. If it's like I'm burning out, it may be one of those moments where I got to Like a Dragon really late. I want to be there for Infinite Wealth on launch day because I think authentically it looks great. But I also don't want to bite off so much that I ruin that game for myself from its launch time, right? I want to be smart about that. And so that's part of what I'm thinking. I also have to recognize that, look, Infinite Wealth is dropping near my beloved Persona 3 Reload. It's a couple of days ahead of that.
Yeah.
And I'm surprised that Sega is putting both those next to each other. Strange choice. And those audiences definitely overlap. But yeah, I'm looking at that as like, that's the main JRPG I'm looking forward to. Persona 3 Reload, like there was that track, Paint of View. I recommend everyone look it up on YouTube. Oh my God. So good. So I'm going to feel out Yakuza. But otherwise, I think this is a good chance for me to kind of look at my collection and just pick a game out and kind of sink into that. But I always like having a goal. I like getting on the pilgrimage and kind of chipping towards something. I love trails. So like Yakuza, I think will just stick by nature of what I like to do now with games, which I like seeing these characters develop game in, game out. And also I have to take advantage of the fact that I got a head start. The fact that I got Kiwami 1 and 2 done and they're like fresh and like I remember them well. It's like, okay, great. Like let's see what 3 has to offer, which
so you already started in a way. I thought you didn't start at all. Oh, okay.
No. I still have a lot of games to go through, but I have 3, 4, 5, 6, 0.
5 is not it.
And now the new one that you just played.
Yeah, I mean, the new one, Gaiden, is worth playing.
Yeah.
This is what I hear. 0 is phenomenal.
Yeah.
Phenomenal.
Yeah.
And then there was the degradation at 5. 5 people look at that as the worst kind of thing. I didn't know you did
5 is like way too long.
Yeah, it's not good at all. Like this series was in serious danger. I've been doing my research on him, and that was when they had to make a pivot.
And 6 was like upswing.
Upswing coming back, but all predicated because 0 was so phenomenal in itself. So
yeah, so I know I'm in for like what may be a rough patch. Like I know apparently like 3, 4, 5 are not great. So I'm just like, yeah. So I'm gonna do it. I want to protect myself because
if you're not having fun, it's okay to come to Ichiban.
Here's my exit strategy. All right, if I want to at least get through 3 and try out 4. If I'm playing these games and I'm like, man, just like no. What I may do is my speed run tactic is do what you did. I may just hop into Like a Dragon Gaiden and just let it rip and just be ready because I want to play all these games, but I also have to be realistic if I'm not going to enjoy it and I just need the story and you seem well equipped. But I as a Trails fan, I also know I can hear the comments now. Like people probably are screeching at me like, no, play them all. And I get it. I get it. I get it. Because I'm a fan of a series where it's like, no, you got to play them all. I get it. But I also need to protect my peace and my free time during this stretch. So I'm ready with both plans. I'm ready to attack the series with full force. But if the series is attacking me, I'm ready for my exit strategy to pull out, reroute, play one game, call it a day.
I will say this in defense of the people who want you and I to play all those, is that the Yakuza series story beats are so good when you finally get to them.
Yeah.
that
Dude, it's trails. I'm telling you, it's trails.
yeah, it's just like you gotta endure the bad stuff
Yep.
and but when you get to, you like, oh, and that makes you kind of stay in. So I get it. I understand why they feel so strongly. Me, I'm satisfied. I got my fill. Guided, and plus, I guess where I'm at is I want the up-to-date version of where he's at, why he's that, and I felt they really did a good job of filling in the blanks for me. I thought they were phenomenal for a new person to the series and guidance, story-wise.
And since I got them all downloaded on Xbox, like this is gonna be my best friend.
Nice.
I will just be playing this via the cloud, just enjoying my life. Across my house while my Xbox is on remote play. Yeah. Because I played almost all of Like a Dragon on my Steam Deck via their wonky back end cloud playthrough. So I'm ready. We'll see how it goes. But that's kind of my plan. Otherwise, if that doesn't work out, then I might I'm looking at my shelf now. I don't know what I'll circle to, but that's kind of a good thing. I might actually even embrace that and be like, you know what? Like maybe I just chill. I have the option to chill. So we'll feel it out. I'm not overly planning it. I'm just giving myself a lot of options because I didn't give myself many options last year and I suffered.
Yes.
So
don't want that.
I'm here to make things right. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, that's episode 151 of Defining Duke, an Xbox podcast. We appreciate you tuning in. Cog, as always, it's been a phenomenal episode. What are we doing for the hashtag this week, sir? Do you have any ideas?
Oh, man, I blanked out on the hashtag for a second. We were all over the place this episode. We had
Starfield, KOTOR, ID at Xbox, Redfall, Persona 6.
Persona 6, yeah. That was up there
too. Console sales.
I feel like we've done like a zillion Starfield stuff already.
No, we don't want to do stuff.
We've
done that a lot. Let's do... Maybe we just... There's not like a real major... This is going to be a fun episode.
It wasn't like a central theme. Like we had
That's what I hate about sometimes with the fucking podcast is like, what am I going to name this thing now? Like we talked about a lot of cool news, but I can't put it all in one title. Maybe DDID. I don't know. I feel like the ID at Xbox story was cool, so maybe we do that.
Cool. ID at Xbox story was cool. We
talked a lot about Yakuza. Like maybe DD Yakuza. Like I feel like that was a steady theme.
Yeah, it's Yakuza kept coming up because of my current playing of it and your decision, which is big.
News with the game's player count.
Yeah. We got to give it to Yakuza this one.
Do you want to do DD Kiryu?
Let's do DD Kiryu.
Yeah,
let's do it.
Then we could give you a DD Ichiban down the stretch.
Yes, we could save bonds with welfare. This is his time. Listen, man, I got so much respect for him. So about as a character, I will never say any slander other than he old. But he is. That's my guy too. I'm with y'all, Team Kiryu. There's no more beef. I rock with him. I really do. I really like the character a lot.
All right,
loved what he represents.
Well, there we go. There's our hashtag DD Kiryu, Kiryu, for those who have never played the game. Tag us on Twitter. I'm at G27status. Cog is at Lord Cognito. If you don't use social media, you can use the comment section. Again, hashtag DD Kiryu. Let us know what you thought of the episode. Let us know you got to the end. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, take excellent care of yourselves, and we will see you next time for episode 152 of Defining Duke, an Xbox podcast. Peace out.
Defining Duke, an Xbox podcast, is a product and trademark of Last Stand Media and Collins Last Stand LLC, and is recorded from the United States of America. The show is conceived by Matthew Mr. Matty Plays Schroeder and me, Colin Moriarty, and is written and produced by Matthew Schroeder. Matty's co-host is Barry Lord Cognito Eversley. Defining Duke's executive producer is Dustin Furman, and the show is edited by associate producer Ben Smith. All of Last Stand's theme music is by Ramon Narvaez. As you know, all of Last Stand Media's shows, including Defining Duke, are fan-funded on Patreon at patreon.com/laststandmedia. The following names are at the producer support level on Patreon, and we're thankful for your kindness and generosity.